And don't forget to press record.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 45 of C4SVillains. I am your host JB and I am here with the Council of Villains, my boys Vash and Steve, and we are here with a very, very special guest, writer, director, and Spider-Man fanboy, my friend Josh Wilson. Guys, thank you so much for joining me.
James, it is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
And
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's a pleasure to always be here. I lost $20 to James since I didn't fix my room in the setup here. So this is all nice and games. I had a great Tuesday. Hopefully everyone's having a better Tuesday than myself. And don't spill some grape juice around the stove. It makes a mess. A big mess.
I would not have thought that unless you told me, so thank you.
I usually do cran grape, so.
I've never been a big fan of cranberry.
Yeah, only sometimes. But guys, we are here. It's finally time for a Spider-Man No Way Home full spoilers discussion. Had to get Josh on the podcast today because if you guys didn't know, and if you are a patron on our Patreon account, you will know that Josh and I did a Best One, Worst One Spider-Man movies a couple years ago. So I think it's time that we do an updated ranking, maybe at the end of this episode. Maybe we might do a separate episode just on that. Who knows? You guys can let us know what you guys think in the chat and in the comments. But this is going to be a really, really fun episode. There's so much to talk about in this movie. But before we dive in, Josh, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. Thanks again for letting me come on here, especially now because Spider-Man is not only my favorite comic book character of all time, he's my favorite character ever invented by anyone in the entire world ever. I just love him so much. And so to be able to come on for this episode specifically to talk about this movie, I'm just so grateful. So thank you. It's also I'm getting ready to release my first graphic novel. So again, thank you for letting me come on and talk about that. We'll talk about it a little bit more at the end. But yeah, I'm pretty much a writer, and I just find different ways to make my writing into things, short films, comic books, things like that. So if you do like comic books as well and you're a Spider-Man fan, follow me on my Instagram at Josh Wilson Creates. I've got a web series called Dangerous Enemies, and I've got this paperback coming out next month. So again, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Definitely check out Josh's links in the description below. You can find the links to his Twitter and his Instagram. So definitely check out his work there. But let's get into some news before we get into the review. So as of right now, as of this moment, Spider-Man No Way Home is sitting at a 94% critic rating with 305 reviews, which I think is really, really impressive. Tom Holland's trilogy has done an amazing job at the box office, critically. You know, not everyone's a huge fan of all three films, but I personally am. But the trilogy has been wildly successful. People are already calling this the best trilogy in the MCU. I think that's still, held by Captain America, but we'll see how everyone else feels once we get through the review. So that was really, really impressive. The film made $260 million at the domestic box office, making it the second biggest opening in history, right under Endgame. This film beat Infinity War. This film beat The Force Awakens, which is a Star Wars movie, the first Star Wars movie back in decades. So that's a huge accomplishment for this film to make that kind of money
During a pandemic.
During the pandemic as well, right?
Internationally,
Internationally,
shattered it.
right? Internationally, it's made $340.8 million for a worldwide total of over $600 million already, and it's only been about 5 to 6 days. So this film is definitely hitting $1 billion. It's going to be the first $1 billion movie of the pandemic era. Huge accomplishment for Spider-Man fans and comic book fans, period. So like I want to toss it to you first, Josh. Like what do you think about the Rotten Tomatoes score? What do you think about the box office numbers? What this means for comic book movies and for cinema?
Man, I'm stoked, and I just checked, before we started this too, and it looks like the not the non-critic score, like the regular average Joe score, is like still 99%, which is incredible. And I'm just excited, man. I mean, we'll get into the movie itself, but I mean, to me, I think when it comes to like MCU movies, the ones that are at the very top just depends on who your favorite hero is. But for me, this movie is my end game. And so this is like, it can't get better than this for me. And it's just at the very top. And I'm so glad that everyone else is as excited about me. Because as I get older, I get more out of touch with things. And so the things that I like aren't as popular and they don't get sequels like Andrew Garfield's second movie, but
Agreed.
For everyone to be as excited as I am about Spider-Man is just amazing. It feels so good. And I'm just happy,
Yeah. Steve, what
like
about
a
you?
kid again,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the fact that everybody is universally loving this movie is just like, yes, we all coming together. And it's just even like the conversations that's coming around this movie and everything like that. I'm loving it because we didn't like I think me and you talk about it all the time, JB. Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man, and he was just his movies did him a disservice in a sense, you know what I'm saying, for people to get a sour taste in their mouth. And I feel like this movie really, really, you know what I'm saying, brought that out. And a lot of people all of a sudden are giving him his flowers, the flowers that he deserved anyway. So I'm loving the fact that everybody is loving this movie and went to go see it. And now they're seeing how great he really was, because I always loved him.
Yeah, man. Vash, what about you?
I'm very happy. As a big time Spider-Man fan, I have a whole 6 character Spider-Man signed by Stan Lee, poster and everything. So like to see this movie do so well with critics and fans. And I don't know if this is the best trilogy, and definitely not Captain America either, but to see this doing so well and how much money it made, it's crazy that it's called the pandemic era. Like just to know that we have this as a pandemic era like topic, but to know that it broke this much money during this pandemic. When I went to movies twice, like there was no type of social distancing. Like everyone was just sitting next to each other, just watching this film, crying together, laughing, there germs all around. And it's just crazy how much this film made. Did people get sick after this? Who knows? We're about to find out by next or 2 weeks later, saying that because of this movie we got sick. I'm like, okay, but this movie made so much money. So to be this, wow, I'm very proud of this movie. And like Tom, hopefully he got paid because he made so much bank.
Yeah, Tom's doing all right.
You know he got paid. Yeah, man. This film is just incredible. It brought together, I mean, we're going to get into spoilers at this point, but it brought together generations of like Spider-Man fans, like coming together all in this movie, from all 3 Spider-Man that show up in this movie, which was something that I didn't think was going to happen, right? Like I said this on like every show that I was on up until the movie. I pray that I'm wrong. I pray that I'm wrong, but I don't think they're in the movie. And then to see them, it was just the greatest thing ever. Like watching it this time around, I cried so many different times, and that's that first viewing on Thursday, it was just so hype. I was just built into this incredible event. Like my girlfriend told me after the film, like I was just holding my head like this the entire movie because I just couldn't believe the incredible shit that happens in this movie. So I don't want to waste any more time. There's so much to talk about in this film, so let's dive straight into our Spider-Man No Way Home spoilers discussion. So the beginning of the film starts off exactly where Far From Home ends off, with Mysterio's message letting the world know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man and leading them to believe that that he used the drones to kill Mysterio, right? So Josh, I kind of want to toss it to you. Like, how did you feel about the ending of Far From Home and then the beginning of No Way Home starting right off the heels of it?
Yeah, so No Way or Far From Home is probably my least favorite of the live action Spider-Man movies. Now, that being said, I love all Spider-Man movies because I love Spider-Man. But to me, I don't know when to talk about this, but like Tom Holland to me did not become Spider-Man until the last half of this movie. To me, it felt like they were trying to make it, might as well have been a new character like Miles Morales, because they tried so hard to make everything different than Peter Parker's origin story. Like none of it lined up. So to me, I just never felt like that was Peter Parker, even to the down to the details of like swinging through New York and saving people that way. They just like kept him so far removed from anything that I recognize as Peter Parker up until this movie. And so that one, especially where they're like in Europe and it just did not feel to me like my Spider-Man, even though I really like Jake Gyllenhaal. I love the Mysterio stuff. That illusion scene in the middle of that movie is really awesome and like really reminiscent of like the 90s cartoon, which I love absolutely. But it did set up this movie, so I can't hate on it too much because I think this movie is absolutely perfect. In the beginning of this movie, when it's starting and you hear J. Jonah Jameson's voice and he says Spider-Man for the first time with like such passion. That's when I shed my first tear. I cried like 10 times in this movie, but like he just loves playing that character so much. And I'm so glad that he's back, even though he's like an Alex Jones type character, but just hearing that in the beginning, and it was the perfect way to start the film. Like just the same second that the last one left off, I thought it was really creative, and they just rolled with it. And it was a creative team. It was like, to me, like the opposite of what they did with the last Star Wars movie, where it's like they watched the movie and changed everything they didn't like about the last one. But in this one, they just took what happened in the last one and said, okay, we're going to run with it, and we're going to just create a story from this point, and it just felt so cohesive and such like a perfect way to start it, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, man. Vash, what about you? Like, what are your thoughts on like how Far From Home rolls into No Way Home and sets the stakes?
I feel like Sony gotta stop putting so much fucking TV spots, because I feel like I wish the scenes we saw right after, like the dude, like I wish we saw that on screen without the TV spots and the trailers, because right after that scene and just him grabbing MJ and then like, hey, like I never want to do this again. Like those scenes would have been great without the trailers, because I actually enjoyed that it was just right after the movie. But then throughout the film, there's small time skips of a week, of a month, and everything like that. And by the way, this is a small grab. I wish sometimes films will actually put week later, 2 months later, because sometimes like we just have to watch it twice or 3 times to see there's a whole time skip. But that scene made sense that it literally went right after Far From Home to No Way Home to just skip it over. Like it just continued starting, but then after that, a good few days went by, so it just makes sense.
Yeah, Steve, what about you, man? Like I just love that we finally got to a point where Peter Parker's identity is out, right? Because in the MCU, like everyone's identity is known, and Peter Parker and Spider-Man in every other iteration that we know has held that secret identity very, very close to him. So it being like exposed like that to the entire world, not even just in New York City, but to the entire world, like that was a pretty big moment for me. So like, what did you think about that, Steve?
I liked it, and like even like from the opening sequence, like you hear the whole like last conversation from the last movie or whatever, but you don't see it. So you're just like, you're already like you're mentally preparing yourself for like what's about to happen. And like, I was like, oh, okay, I think this is dope. Instead of them actually showing us the whole scene from last time over again, they kind of just gave it to you just audio only. So I really like that. And then just like the whole situation with everybody knowing or whatever. And he was just like, dude, like how Vash said. But then like MJ is sitting there like, she's like, I'm on a pole here. You just left me. Like she's like, but also I saw Rob in the comments. He was saying, Spider-Man just hit me. Spider-Man just hit me. I thought that was funny. She was just trying to get a quick check.
That's a great line. It felt such a Karen move.
He just hit me. You didn't see that? Like, I thought that was funny too. Like the whole opening sequence, I thought it was cool. It was like really engaging to get everybody like kind of like already just in there, instead of just giving you some like fluff in the beginning. It was just like you just get it right off the bat. You just already sucked into the movie, and I really enjoyed that.
And yeah, plus, I love that it just continues right off the movie, and you just go straight back into it.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I agree with Rob. MJ has some great ass balance, because my balance are ass, and I would have fallen. Like
balance or die.
If Spider-Man had me on top of a pipe like that, I'd be like, yo, just saying, guy, if you let me go, I'm gonna die right now. My hands are sweaty. I'm gonna lose balance. I'm gonna fall right now and cause a whole bridge accident right now going on. But like, nah, like she had the best balance. Like I get it, girl was trying to balance herself, but she had way balance than most people I know.
He would have had to catch me. I'd have been like,
So there.
Steve, you're right though, man. Doing the rehashing of what happened in the last film during the opening crawl of the movie was like super smart. Like, has there ever been an MCU movie where they play the MCU logo and there's like significant story or something really important happening in front of it, or is this the first time that they tried that?
They did it with Endgame.
Yeah, I was gonna
They
say.
did?
They
Oh,
did
yeah,
that with
that makes
Endgame,
sense.
yeah.
Okay. I guess
They did it with
might have
Endgame, like they did it like for a minute or so, which was a background noise. So I'm guessing they have learned like, oh, this works from this film. Let's try to do something here, probably similar. So probably that makes sense why they try to do something, a little copy and paste, and just try to improve it.
Yeah, it's smart filmmaking for sure.
Yeah, and it just fits, right? Like, do it where it fits, you know. Oh, Rob saying was just Infinity War. I knew it was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we move on. Peter and MJ are swinging through the city. We get to Aunt May's apartment. She's breaking up with Happy in this moment, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. They walk into Peter's room thinking they're about to have sex, and like Aunt May is about to like give him the talk about protective sex and all that stuff.
Yeah, even though he's like 17.
Right. All of the helicopters are coming in. He's pulling down all of the blinds and everything, trying to get their attention. And then Peter gets arrested, right? And the moment that we saw this in the trailer, I knew that this was going to be the moment where Daredevil is introduced. Like, it just made sense. We're in New York. Peter needs a lawyer. Who else? Kevin Feige said years ago that these characters were still on the table. They were going to be introduced at some point, and it's finally happening. So, Josh, I want to start with you. What did you think about the Matt Murdock scene, and did you anticipate Matt Murdock showing up in this film?
So it was really, for me, because of it was being opening night, like the excitement of everyone else in the theater got me excited too. I have not seen much of his series, so it wasn't as hard hitting for me, but I do think that he's a good character. I think he's a good actor. I think that scene really worked, even though he's in it for such a short period of time. Like, all the fan servicey bits in this movie to me work, and they're part of the story, and it's not just like cash grab, get him in there just to be in there. Like, even his was so short, but it felt meaningful and purposeful, and he did a great job. It was like a really powerful scene. So I liked it a lot. I do think he's a great actor. I think he's a perfect Daredevil. I think he's got the look and the talk and the swagger, but I loved it. And to backtrack a little bit, I think that Happy had enough time with May. Like, I think that was probably like, to see those two together, like he's with Aunt May, I'm like, you're not in her league, man. What, this is just like, I think Jon Favreau always puts himself in any one of his movies with like gorgeous women. I'm like, only if you write yourself into that situation is that happening for you, buddy. Even though I love him, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, even Rob was in the chat like, how did Happy pull Aunt May? We don't know, bro. I don't know.
Hey, he was the assistant to Tony Stark, so like he has that move. He has seen how how Tony pulls other women. So he has probably learned from the master, and then the student has become the master. I'm just here spitballing, but who knows?
You're probably right. That makes a lot of sense. I think I don't remember the guy's name though, but the main FBI agent who's in Succession, he did a great job too, I thought, even though he's in it for a short period of time. He plays that role super well.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that comic book movies like take themselves seriously. Like, going back, I just watched the Toby ones recently, and they're still kind of clawing their way out of that kind of like
it. It was cringy.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to get away from those earlier Batman movies where it's like they don't know how to make it a mixture of serious and comic book. It's just like a little bit too off the wall, too campy. And I think that the Toby Spider-Man do a little bit better of a job with that, but there's still little parts of that where I'm like, ugh. Obviously the big scene in Spider-Man 3 where he's dancing around like a weirdo, but
yeah, man, it was too much. Steve, what about you though? What did you think about Matt Murdock's appearance in the film, and did you expect it?
Oh yeah, on the when we were talking about Hawkeye last week, I was like, no, the week before, I was like, Kingpin will probably be in this episode or the finale, and I was all like, and they've already announced Charlie Cox, he's gonna be in Spider-Man. I was thinking we were gonna get like a quick glimpse of Kingpin somewhere, but that didn't happen. But I was just like, I already knew. I was all like, we're getting Kingpin and Hawkeye right now. Spider-Man is gonna get Daredevil. We're gonna get both of them. I was like, they're gonna be in it. And like as soon as they showed him on screen, I was just like hype. Like my whole row was hype. We were like, yo. And it was really cool, like how he just was talking about the main FBI agent and how he was like kind of messing with Ned, and he was all like, oh yeah, man, I got plenty of guys. The guy in the chair,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Pretty much all my guys are guys in the chair.
All my guys are guys in the chair. And he was, and then Ned just, just slowly just telling on himself.
Ned is so great, man. He's a perfect actor in that. He plays the role so well.
Yeah, and then like when you see him in interviews, he's not like that. So it's like he's really, really good at what he's doing. And
yeah,
Ned,
this is some of the first stuff he's ever done,
Yeah,
it's so good. But yeah, like Charlie Cox, and then like of course when he catches the brick, that's coming straight at his head. And he catches it, and it's crazy because like not only does he catch it, but Peter's got his hand up too, and he caught it before Peter. So I'm like, yo, his reflexes are
with
like,
his back turned to the door, bro,
Yes.
and blind. It's like, how did he do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
Really good. Lawyer.
But then told Happy that he knows that he needs a really good lawyer too. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
he tells Happy, he said, you're gonna need a lawyer. You're gonna need a really good lawyer.
He's like
So-
insinuating like it's not going to be me. I'm not taking this case, but you need a really good lawyer.
yeah.
So
but
Rob, to your point, yeah, go ahead, Vash.
I was literally going to transition. I'm sorry, James, I took that off you.
No, you good.
But it just makes it funny that when I first saw the film, I'm like, wait a minute, is this a time for She-Hulk? And it's funny how Rob brought it up, saying that could this be a time for Happy to look for another good lawyer, aka who's the only good lawyer like Murdoch is She-Hulk as well. She also has a law degree and everything else. So do you guys think this could be a connection to Happy to probably connect with She-Hulk in the next series coming? I think it's next year, right?
Yeah, I really hope so.
I'm down. I don't know a lot about that character, but I'm down for Happy to be in that show for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he will be.
And I've heard rumors that Daredevil's going to be in that show too, which would make sense because it's all courtroom stuff.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he be?
And
Yeah.
and aren't they like? Isn't he like in love with her or something like that too?
In some runs, yes. In some runs, She-Hulk and Daredevil have some storylines like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would love him to show up in She-Hulk and Hawkeye season 2. I think it would be very fitting to have him there because I mean, spoilers for Hawkeye. Kingpin looks like he's going to be the main villain of next season. So it's like I think it would be amazing for Matt Murdock, who has such an extensive history with Kingpin, to come into it with Clint and Kate Bishop against the big guy. So I think that would be really, really cool. But yeah, man, for me, I love this cameo. I knew it was coming, and I lost my mind. I almost jumped out of my chair when I saw Matt Murdock because I think he is the only person on the planet that can play Matt Murdock, Daredevil. He was born to play that role. There's no one else. Same thing with like Vincent D'Onofrio and like John Bernthal. There's no one else that could play those characters. So I can't wait to see the rest of them show up in the MCU.
Yeah, I hope they don't keep Kingpin just to TV because like since we found out that Oscorp doesn't exist in this universe, like Wilson Fisk would be an awesome villain for Tom Holland Spider-Man, like especially if it's a grounded New York story. So who knows?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Like with him being like so cosmic for all of these movies and all of these big stakes that he's been through, it would be nice for this next trilogy to become more grounded, like you're saying. Have him play up the role more of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and then to take on organized crime with the Kingpin and Wilson Fisk. So I think that would be really, really cool to get him in the trilogy for sure.
Yeah.
Same. For me, I love the scene with Matt. When it happened, it's like my mind kind of forgot. Like I knew about the Toby and the Andrew still in the back of my head, but about Daredevil, Matt Murdock, I totally forgot about that scene. Being leaking everything for weeks or months ago. So when I saw that scene, and then when we saw the cane, my whole theater clapped. I was like, "Oh shit, that's fucking Matt! That's fucking Matt!" So that was dope as hell. And then I love how they also continue the same storyline of what happened in Far From Home. That Aunt May and plus Happy, they were also in the middle of breaking up, but it's just Happy wasn't try and let it go, and plus what happened in Europe and everything, so that kind of got cut off. So I'm happy that they continue the same storyline in here with Aunt May like officially saying like, "Hey, my boy, this was a fling, nothing more than that. This was no type of relationship, a fling." Also, I love how they continue this type of relationship and the storyline, because this was in the same type of timeline, same type of movie. And it's just that scene of Matt just grabbing a brick. I just love it because it shows like it kind of makes you question like, does he has better instincts or like some good instincts as good as his Spidey sense, or like they're both right there. But my question is, I feel like Aunt May or Happy knew who Matt was, more than a superhero, regular type of lawyer. Like I feel like they knew he was Daredevil.
Why do you
That's
think
my
that?
assumption. Because like, who can they trust? Like, why would they trust any random lawyer? Like any random lawyer
Well,
to help
Matt's
Peter?
not a
Random lawyer,
Matt's
isn't
not
it
a
like
random lawyer. He helps like people. He takes the cases that no one else takes.
True, but what I'm saying is like knowing what we don't know, what is really connected to the MCU right now with these characters as Daredevil and Kingpin. Like I feel like one of them, Happy or May, has to know who's Matt is.
So
That's
so
just my
why
assumption.
not reveal it when he caught the brick? You know, why just say that I'm a really good lawyer? You know, if
Because
one
no,
of them already knows, you know.
it, because none of them were shocked. Happy or Aunt May was not shocked. Only
I mean,
Peter.
did you see their reaction though? I don't
In
recall seeing
this
their reaction at all.
true.
The
I don't
only
know. I just
reaction
felt
we
like
get is from Peter.
Yeah, Peter is like the only one.
I would be curious how they met him. Like if he came to them, like I would love to know
Yeah.
how that came about. If I bet he probably seeked them out because I bet he probably helps heroes, and he like he saw this happening. He was like, I'm the perfect guy for this.
Yeah, I'm only asking because there's so many things going on in this movie. I just want to make sure like I'm seeing everything that happened on the screen. I want to make sure we cover everything here during this review.
Oh no, you got a point there. It just makes me like curious to see like how did Daredevil get caught up with this? Like, why is he the one to be the lawyer and not some random douchebag? So it kind of makes you question like, did Happy or did Aunt May know of a superhero lawyer that's good for this position to actually help their niece? I mean, to help their nephew, our boy Peter, to get out of the situation. So I feel like one of them has to know.
I mean, it's definitely possible, but everything that happens like from this scene into the next, it's all like everything being taken away from Peter, right? He wanted to keep his secret identity, that's now gone. The privacy that he had with his friends, with MJ, that's all gone. And then we start to get the montage sequences of him like, you know, going through the acceptance letters and all of that stuff. And then we get to the scene inside of where MJ works. And then they all pretty much got rejected from MIT. MJ and Ned, pretty much because they know who he is, right? Because of the recent controversy, we can't accept your application at this time. And as a person, to know that you've essentially ruined, you know, part of the future of your girlfriend and your best friend, that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot of pressure. MIT is the school that Tony Stark went to. You know what I mean? Like, that's his motivations for wanting to go to that school, idolizing Tony Stark. Same thing with MJ and Ned. They really wanted to go to the best school for them, right? So it's like for them to be rejected simply because of that, it's really, really tragic, which pushes him to do everything else that he did in this film. So Josh, I want to start with you and kind of just want to talk about like, how did you feel about that scene and watching Peter go through that guilt of pretty much failing his friends and them not getting into MIT?
Yeah, it's a great setup. I was wondering when I was watching it, like the second or third time, is this enough to get him to go to Doctor Strange? And I think it is, because he loves them, you know, very much, and he feels personally responsible. And this is the very beginning of that transition for his character. Like, he's feeling this guilt. He is affecting these people's lives negatively. Little does he know that that's about to get way, way worse. But this is kind of the first taste of it, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like to be the one to make their lives worse just from knowing him, you know. So I think it was a really good sort of introduction to the idea of that before it, like, the shit really hit the fan later on, you know. And I also thought it was really artfully done when he's looking up at those Halloween lights, and it looks a lot like Doctor Strange, and they're zooming in. Like, I just thought that was a really nice way to bring about that too. And then when we get there, it's obviously, you know, it just feels like home. Like every time you're in the sanctum, it's just like Wong is such an awesome, hilarious character. He's just so grumpy all the time. And then Doctor Strange just floats down, and you're like, this is fucking awesome. And I'm so glad that they used Doctor Strange so tastefully. Like, he was in and out just when he needed to be. And I was afraid watching the trailers that like, oh no, he's going to be another mentor to Peter, but he's really not. He has a purpose, but it's not, you know, Peter is very much on his own in this movie with his friends, you know, doing his own thing and solving his own problems. Scooby doing that shit, rather.
Yeah.
Please, Scooby do that shit.
Do the shit. Vash, what about you? Like, do you think that this was enough that Peter should have gone to Doctor Strange to essentially try to get him to reverse time just so that people won't know his identity?
So as much as love Peter and everything, but sometimes when you like, you're stupid because Steven said a point. He said, wait, you didn't even try to convince them, call them, text them, email them. Hey, can you change your mind? So I love how like he asked the most obvious question that our boy Peter did not really think of, because Steven had a point. It like Peter didn't really think like, oh shit, wait, we just got rejected. Let me just go brainwash the whole universe and forget who Spider-Man is, who's the real identity. So that was like reckless, but it makes sense. What Steven said is that no matter how much they save the universe and Earth, he's still a kid. He's still in high school. He makes those type of rational type of choices that make sense. And also I love how the MIT woman, she's the same person that was back in Civil War, of who spoke to Tony that, hey, I lost a child over there. So
that's a different actress.
No, it's the same. I checked.
You sure?
Yeah.
Because that actress was actually the actress from Civil War. She was actually on Luke Cage. So the board woman from MIT, that's not the same actress.
Already?
Triple check that, yeah. Yeah, but while you check that, Steve, I just want to get your thoughts on this. Like, what did you think about like just everything that Peter's going through, him deciding that this was the best chance to fix him and his friends going to MIT by erasing, pretty much going back in time to erase people's memories?
I mean, it shows that, I think it shows also the fact that Peter Parker is a kid still. It shows that he's 17 years old, and that's the thing that came to mind. He was like, oh man, I know Doctor Strange, he can rewind time. Like that's what he was thinking. And he like when Doctor Strange said, he was like, you didn't even attempt to like call out and reach out to these people or nothing like that. And it just shows that he's a kid. Like when I was 17, if a college rejected me, I would have just thought it's over. I never would have realized that, or even thought I could reach out to the college and be like, well, why didn't y'all, want me to go there, or what can I do to change anything? I would have just took it for what it's worth. So it kind of shows that he is 17 years old. He's a 17-year-old kid. And he's also like, well, I got connections. You know what I'm saying? I know Doctor Strange who can rewind time. But then he even, Doctor Strange even goes, I don't even have the time stone anymore. So, and then they come to that conclusion where it's like, oh, dang. And then they come up with the spell or whatever. But like that whole situation was just like, it shows who Peter character was, how he's willing to go the extra mile for people just in general, like his friends especially. But like later on, they play into the whole, like when MJ we'll get to it later, but MJ says that's not who he is. You could just left us and killed us. You know what I'm saying? They said that doesn't feel like that's who he is. You know what I'm saying? So that it just shows that like his character is just one of those characters that's always looking to better up and do something for other people rather than just himself. It shows his selflessness and things like that. But I mean, honestly and truthfully, I was relatable to me. Like if I got denied from his college, I would have just, I would have never thought, like at 17, I would have never been like, oh, let me call them. You know what I'm saying? It makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
Someone on Twitter made a funny I think it was on Twitter, made a funny observation, which I didn't know, but like how unlikely it would ever be for 4 people from the same high school to be accepted into MIT in one given year, just because it's so hard to get into it anyways. But I think Marvel is so clever when it comes to that stuff, because like the dialogue in the trailer and the movie is changed pretty significantly for a lot of those scenes. Right. And I guess just to conceal spoilers, or because maybe when they're making those trailers, they don't for sure know exactly what scenes they're going to go with. But a lot of that stuff changes. And so it throws a lot of people off when they're thinking, okay, what's going to be happening in this movie? Is Doctor Strange going to be evil? People had thought about for a while because he's like botching them. But when you watch the movie and how it goes down, it all kind of makes sense logically how it happened, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like I just love the way that this film is written. You can tell that they took their time writing the script. It's so well laid out. Like we're already starting to allude to. So we're getting into the point where Peter's at the Sanctum. I love that there was a blizzard that just blew in from Siberia, and now the whole thing's just like completely in ice. I thought that was really, really cool.
But they can't do a spell to get rid of it. They have to shovel.
Right?
I was just about to say that, like they did it. Got 2 random people that are literally shoveling the snow into a bucket. Like Yaron gun on top of like a heat wave,
right?
Like
like
type of spell.
Something.
Let in the Sahara Desert heat.
It's all very
one
comic
thing
booky, though. It
when
fits.
when
Right.
that first happens and they walk in, I thought that was going to be Shang-Chi and oh girl just shoveling snow like
Dude, what?
and I was like, what the heck? Why did
Oh.
That would have been a great Easter egg, but yeah, because I think Shang-Chi happens the same time as I think Shang-Chi and Eternals happens around the same time.
Okay, because I was
Yeah,
like,
we'd have to
why
check that,
the
yeah.
heck would Shang-Chi and them be shoveling snow right now?
Yeah.
I thought that would have been hilarious.
And Merc, you brought up the thing I was just about to talk about, the fact that Wong was named the Sorcerer Supreme. I thought that this was
a technicality.
Mhm.
I mean, it was done on a technicality, but he's still the Sorcerer Supreme right now. So I thought that was really, really cool. With Doctor Strange being gone for 5 years, I mean, Wong has tenure. I mean, he knows everything. Like he's been around the Darkhold and all of these other mystical books. It would make
And he still
sense.
chooses to leave. He'd be like, "Oh, yo, I'm
He has duties. He's busy.
He's got duties. And honestly, like Doctor Strange, he's awesome. We all love him, but like he pretty consistently messes stuff up. So like, is he like
Always.
the most responsible character? Like Wong is very
Right.
pragmatic, you know what I mean? Like Doctor Strange always breaks the rules, it seems like, and then shit goes down.
But I love that he's still struggling with that, though.
Yeah.
When the first trailers came out, a lot of people were theorizing, "Oh, that's not Doctor Strange. This is like some evil version of him because he wouldn't actually cast this spell." I was like, "No, this guy
He's
became
reckless
a
as fuck.
surgeon
Yeah.
so that he can play God. Now he has Sorcerer Supreme level power. His arrogance hasn't changed. He's still that arrogant guy. Of course, I'll just erase the memories of everyone on the planet because I can. That's just the arrogance playing in. So he's doing the
Like
spell.
people forget how much Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark and Doctor Strange look alike in the comics. It's because of how they're so similar with their arrogance and how they're so stubborn, because they're always the two people that cause so much chaos and trouble for these big type of storylines and comics runs. Because it literally, Stephen Strange, one of the most strongest guys, but he always starts the problems first.
He's a good replacement for Iron Man in the movies, I think, because they are very similar, and they're also the two smartest, except for Peter. And now, you know, very soon Reed Richards will be coming in too, so that'll be really interesting to see.
I cannot wait to see that dynamic in the future.
I know,
Yeah.
directed by this
they
guy
do
too,
right.
John. It's going to be amazing.
John Watts, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
especially now that we have confirmation that Oscorp doesn't exist, I triple think that the Baxter building is now, you know, the old Avengers Tower. I definitely think, I don't know if Doom bought it and like he owns the Baxter building and like who knows how it's gonna go, but I think it's the new Baxter building. I can't wait to get a bigger reveal on that. But Doctor Strange is doing the spell, and Peter's constantly changing it at this point. It's like because he's a kid, he doesn't realize that we're messing with the fabric of reality.
They should have had a little discussion before they started, don't you think?
Right?
Yeah, but again, it's Strange's arrogance that just leads him into like, I can just do this spell really, really quick. But Wong warns that this spell goes between the known and unknown realities, right? So that tells us right then and there that within this spell, it's going into dimensions that are unknown in order to change parts of our reality to pretty much fit in those blank spaces. So first of all, Doctor Strange tells him pretty much everyone's going to forget. He changes it for MJ, changes it for Ned, changes it for Happy, changes it for Aunt May, and then he just blurts out pretty much everyone that knew my identity before should still know, which completely breaks the spell, shatters out into reality. And this is where we get the introduction of all of these great villains from across the Spider-Verse in the live action movies.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
funny,
special
right?
effects looks amazing in that scene.
yeah.
Like I was just wild, like, damn, this shit looks good. Like the whole purple, little black there, little chaos type of underwear about
And
it
it's
being
so
destroyed.
like consistent with like
amazing.
what happened in like Loki and all that stuff. It's so consistent.
Yeah. And it's so like an adult and like a little kid, you know, like no matter how good at something you are, how focused you are, if you have a kid like, what's that? You're going to be like, shut up and let me do this, you know, and you're going to mess up that freaking spell.
That line of Strange was my favorite. He said like, damn, I forget you're still a kid. Like all the time we have saved the world, I still forget you're a kid. Like it's so true because what Steve said is that he may be 17 and a Spider-Man and a hero, but he still thinks like a kid because he just has the straight up type of impulse to talk before he thinks. And that's why he messed up the spell 6 goddamn times. Because he even told Steven,
He said
no,
5 times.
5 times. He said, why are you telling me I'm the one that did the fucking spell? Like, yo, I felt like Strange was about to curse and just grab his head and be like, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, call me sir, and that really like the audience was like,
yeah. Like, stop, Steven. No, sir. We're going back to sir again. You lost respect for that.
Obviously, I need to reintroduce myself.
Like, I'm tired of your bullshit, little kid.
Yeah, so we get that entire conversation between Strange and Peter, just like, I mean, but you didn't even think to plead your case before you had me change the fabric of reality to make everyone on the planet forget. You know what I mean? So it's like, when you put it like that, just like, come on, dude, you're a genius. But anyway,
like door slam.
Right? So he calls Flash. Flash recommends that he talks to, I believe she's on the board. I can't remember her name right now, but I believe she's on the board at MIT. She's on her way to the airport. Peter swinging in. I love that he kind of glides in with like the nanotech wings that were made from the suit. I absolutely love that. He glides in, finds the car, and he's trying to talk to her, stumbling through his words, trying to get through it. And then his spider sense goes off. People are running. We're hearing booms. Now we're on the highway. First appearance of Doc Ock. So I want to cover the entire highway sequence like right here. So Josh, I want to start with you and just get like your favorite moments from that entire sequence between Peter and Doc Ock.
Yeah, it's an amazing sequence, and we all know that's like all that they would show us in every trailer because everything else was full of spoilers. So we saw so much of that scene, but it did not disappoint at all. And I thought the lady who played the Dean or whatever she's playing did a really fantastic job. I also really loved that suit for the first time. Like, I'm not a big nanotech fan that just like, ooh, it's magic and now my mask is on. I don't really like any of that stuff, but it really worked when Doc Ock stole a little bit of it, and then he went to get him with a spike, and then it went from his mask to his chest. I thought that was very cool and very clever, because for a second we're like, oh my God, he just got stabbed in the heart with that spear. But that entire scene to me was absolutely perfect. When he jumped over the car that was going towards those water containers, it was gorgeous. It looked so great. Some of the best CG in that movie, because a lot of times they cover up CG. You'll notice when they're in the dungeon and that big fight scene at the end, a lot of times they mask CG with making it nighttime or making it dark, because it's just a lot easier to make it look better. But all that stuff was in broad daylight and it looked friggin' gorgeous. And it was just like, not only was it perfect, like all the action sequences, but just the way that it moved the story along and proved to that lady and all of us how much of a hero he really is. Like, so much went down in that scene, and I just think that they pulled it off perfectly. My only question for you guys with that would be, because at first when I first watched it, the second and third time, it seemed like it made a little bit more sense. But like, we're sitting there, he's got Doc Ock wrapped up in his own arms, Green Goblin's racing towards him, and then the portal kind of comes over and they end up with Doctor Strange. At first I was like, why didn't he take or even acknowledge the fact that Green Goblin was there? But I think probably behind the scenes, Doctor Strange was like too busy focused on finding him. He found them and he just kind of took him right away and wasn't really paying attention to the overall what was going on. But at first it kind of just seemed, it happened so fast, you almost don't realize, like, okay, we're on the bridge now, where the hell are we? But after a couple more viewings, it kind of felt smoother. But what did that transition seem like to you guys? Did that work for you?
It worked for me because it seemed like a split decision, right? So he's first of all, before that scene, he was fighting Lizard, which I hope they put in like a deleted scene on the Blu-ray. I can only hope. But he was fighting Lizard, peeks in on Peter, sees him fighting Doc Ock, and immediately just tries to grab them, right? Just to get him into a cage. Yeah. I don't think he was actively like looking around to even notice anyone else, which also shows like gaps in like Doctor Strange's characterization. There's things about him that he still needs to grow and adapt to. So I thought I really liked that scene.
Yeah, and he's not an all-seeing eye. He can probably just see what's in that portal, which was just basically Peter and Doc Ock. So yeah, that when I thought about it a little bit more, it worked for me too.
Yeah. What about you guys?
It definitely was blue balls for me, because I was like, oh snap, we about to see Green Goblin, and it was like, oh, I was like, we're in a cave. No, I was like, dang, man, what the heck? So I was like super hyped for it, and then I was just like, oh man. So, but that whole scene in general was like, piggybacking off JB's original question, it was really dope. when Peter flies in and originally takes off his armor, I'm like, dude, how's he gonna speak to the dean? His suit is so wrinkled. It was like it was so wrinkled. I was like, I didn't notice it that much the first time, but the second time and third time I watched
Oh, it's real bad.
I was like, dude, his suit is wrinkled. How's he gonna talk to this lady like this? But then he Doc Ock shows up, and then they have their dialogue or whatever, and they engage or whatever, and they start fighting, and the scene is really cool. Like the way that he even first comes in, he's under the bridge, I guess, and he's like pops up out of the bridge, and it's just like he's basically using the bridge as like monkey bars almost, you know what I'm saying? He's just swinging through underneath, and he pops up, and when he pops up, immediately Peter gets in the suit and he's ready to fight. And I just was really hype about not only that, but when the Iron Spider pulls out the arms. So now you got the 6 arms, 6 or 4-on-4 arms or whatever. And then Doc Ock goes, "Oh boys, we got competition." I thought that was really cool.
I love that.
I was all like, yo, this is a really cool scene, just with them like fighting with their arms instead of, actually fist fighting with each other. And that was really what set Peter off too. He was all like, "I'm going to kill MJ or whatever." And Peter's like, "What'd you say?" You know what I'm saying? So
he's like, "I should have killed your girlfriend when I had the chance."
Yeah, he was all like, "Wait a minute." He was all like, "I don't know who you think I am, but you about to find out." And that whole scene was like really cool too. And then like the nanobites, you know what I'm saying, getting into him. And then now he can control the suit. Like that whole scene, I thought it was really fun. It was real fun. It was a great opening scene for a fight, you know what I'm saying, that we get to see. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that nanotech when he controlled the arms, that was super smart too. I did not see that coming as a way to diffuse that situation.
Yeah. I thought that he was going to be OP with the nanotech. I was like, oh, now he's really. I was like, now he's really screwed. And then kind of like, hacks into the Wi-Fi system, kind of.
Yeah, Karen was like, "Detected new hardware, syncing now." I was like, "Oh shit! All right, cool." I mean, that makes sense, right? Just get it done. One thing that I really liked about that scene, real quick, was just one of those cars that Doc Ock throws at Peter. The license plate says 63 ASM3, which is Amazing Spider-Man number 3 from 1963, which was the first appearance of Doc Ock. Wow, so I love those little things. Like in Marvel movies and shows, you have to look at anything that has numbers on it and just try to figure out what it is, right? There's always some kind of significance to that kind of stuff. So when I saw that, I was like, gotta Google it, gotta see which Amazing Spider-Man comic that was. It was like first appearance of Doc Ock. So I absolutely love that scene. Like Steve talked about, just watching them fight with 6 arms against 6 arms, I thought that was really, really dope. There was a part of me that kind of wish I got a little bit more of that fight, but there's so many other things going on in the film. It kind of ends up being the perfect amount of time because it's not necessary, right? We already got a bunch of Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. This isn't the place for it. We've got so many other villains that we have to get to. So, Vash, what about you? Like, what was some of your favorite moments from the highway fight between Peter and Doc Ock?
So I wish that fight was like 20 seconds longer at least. It didn't have to be like a whole minute more. But I wish that I could get 20 seconds longer. Because I just love this little small comedy between like you said, 6 arm. Because when he said like, "Oh, guys, we have competition," so like those little small conversation jokes between Doc Ock and Peter was very funny, and him kept trying to save the MIT vice counselors, what I saw. And by the way, James is not the same person. By the way, is not the same person from Civil War to this. It's not, but they look very alike. So that's why when I thought they were. But she was the MIT assistant vice chancellor. So I just love how Peter kept trying to save her and like that. It was coming like he just kept trying to reach his goal, and Doc Ock just kept swinging him around. And the way I didn't expect that the nanotech was actually gonna help Peter at the end to actually stop Doc Ock. And it's just the way that he had no control over his own arms, so it kind of gave Peter a little one-edged sword. So I just love that very much. It was smart. It was very smart for Peter on that end.
Yeah. So like we already talked about, like, so Doctor Strange comes in, opens up a portal, catches Doc Ock and Peter, and then he already caught Lizard. I really, really hope we get to see that on a deleted scene. I really, really hope so. So he caught those two, and then this was something that got spoiled for me with the toys. So I saw the gauntlet that Doctor Strange changed in a toy months ago. So I was really, really excited to see that. But now we get it all in context. The gauntlet will shoot a magical web that will then bring those people back to the sanctum, into the dungeon, and then Doctor Strange will then be able to reverse the spell in order to send them all back, right? So I thought that was really, really cool. And then Peter gets Ned and MJ involved, and then he goes after Elektra and Sandman. I thought this was a really, really cool scene. I thought the black and gold suit was going to be a completely new suit, but because of this movie, we realized that it was just it's just the same suit, just inside and out. So I thought that was really, really interesting. He had his phone duct taped to his chest. It's like, this is such like a kid thing to do. He's got Ned and MJ right there.
I'm like, don't you think your phone's about to rip? And like, once you fought an electro person, I'm like, do you think that your phone like might get electrified, burn or something? And then it happened. I'm like, you just lost a phone, but then he has another phone. I'm like, where do you have the other phone at? Like in your butt cheeks or something?
But I personally love this scene because of the Electro introduction. I was wondering, like, why does he have the yellow lightning in this universe, right? And exactly what they explained is what I speculated, right? It's because it's a completely different universe. Energy flows differently in this universe. We've seen this with like other types of characters in like comics and stuff where they go to different universes and their powers adapt to that universe, right? So I thought that was really, really cool. And this is where we also get the introduction of Sandman. So Josh, I want to start with you. And I want to know, like, what were some of your favorite moments of that interaction between Peter, Electro, and Sandman at the power plant?
Yeah, it was great. I like Jamie Foxx a lot, especially as Electro. I think he does a really great job, and I think they changed the character just a little bit and made him cooler. And I think that was probably him coming back. He's like, can we make me a little cooler? I looked weird. I started off as a dweeb, and then they made me a weird blue guy in the other movie. So can we just make me like a cool villain? And I think that stuff all worked. And I really liked the new costume. It like was an homage to the comic book, even with like just for a split second when he's coming in and you see that kind of star figure over his face. And the comedy's there too. Like you can't help it. Like Jamie Foxx is a funny guy. So like when he's standing there, he's like, you guys just gonna ignore that I'm butt naked. It just worked for me, and I thought it was a great way to introduce both characters at the same time. I really love the reason I don't like absolutely despise Spider-Man 3 is because I really like the Sandman character a lot. I think that worked. I wish we would have gotten more of that, honestly. And I think the actor who played Hayden Church, I think is his name, something like that. He did a great job, and he continues to do a great job. And I had heard because of scheduling issues, they kept him the Sandy Man like the whole time, basically. But his voice was there, the powers were there. It's a very cool visual effect that only looks better now with the updated CG. And I was also curious, like what they would do with him, like if they were going to make him a villain, because that really wouldn't make sense anymore. And I thought his character arc in this and his motivations made sense. And he right away was ready to help Spider-Man until he realized, oh, this isn't my Spider-Man. What the hell is going on? Because, at the end of the day, he's still looking out for himself. But he is a good person at heart. So he's going to default to trying to do the best thing. But if it doesn't work out for his own thing of getting back to his universe and getting back to his kid, then he's going to, go against it or whatever. But yeah, it worked for me. And when you get back to the Sanctum with all the different villains, like it hurt to see the lizard he's pretty much just a joke the entire movie. But he had some cool parts. Like he's still a cool presence, and there is mostly just to get a laugh. But I think overall the interplay between the villains worked really well, and I think that just showing the humanity of all of them, because not any of them were really just pure evil for the sake of evil, except for Defoe when he turns into the Goblin. But they all have humanity. They can all be reasoned with. I love how Jamie Foxx there's always humanity there, and as soon as he gets the power taken away, like especially towards the end, like he's just turns back into that guy that he is, like Andrew Garfield said, he's a sweet guy, and he really is, but he's just been put down so much. When he gets that power, he just can't help himself, and I don't know, Jamie Foxx is great, and I think he did a great job in a nutshell.
Definitely. Vash, what about you, man? Like what did you think about that entire sequence with like Peter, Electro, Sandman?
So I do understand why people say Jimmy Fox felt like he was playing himself, but also he had inside a new universe or the 616, so he had like a different type of power source. But people need to remember, I think in Iron Man 2 or 3, that Tony put Stark reactor under Manhattan, and he power up the whole tri-state. So the whole Stark reactor is powering the whole tri-state. So I feel like once he came out, he already felt the new energy source. So that's why. So in my mind, that's how he got this new type of energy slash body. AK when he pop out, he was up naked because he felt like just came up on new. And I'm like Sandman. I would have ignored you. I would just be like, "Yeah, we good. I don't see you, but naked. I'm just looking at your head, my guy. I'm not looking nowhere else. Don't need to look nowhere else.
Why are you
No,
being
don't need to
weird?
look below. If we
Oh,
find some clothes along the way, then I will give you some clothes. But right now, I don't see nothing else under your neck. So, I love the comedy bit. That was good. I love how we found a little Easter egg. I don't know with the tree Groot. I don't. That's the way I saw it because Pika Electro and that just felt like that was. Oh no, it was Ned. That is that like a tree, like a villain, like some slash scientist. Like
Is
no,
this
Pika
like kind
Electro
of
was like
some
no,
tree
that's just a regular
scientist?
tree, my guy. That's a regular tree. That's
Just a
all.
tree.
Just a tree, bro. It's just a tree.
So overall the singles entertaining. Um, Even I question how the hell did Peter stay all night just to put power back on, which is webs. I just find like that science a bit more questionable. But hey, he's a science geek, so I guess he knows how to figure out electricity more
I
than
mean,
me.
in
'Cause I'm-
Andrew's movies, I mean, he used his webs, you know, to carry electricity. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
True.
We've seen it
You got a
happen
point
before.
there.
It's
I just saw
just
the
like
movie, so you're
I was
right.
just thinking of how long it took him to do it, you know?
Yeah.
It took him like the whole night because when we saw him again, it was like sunrise.
Yeah.
So to make sense. So like, oh, went from dark to sunrise. It took him probably good 6 hours or less. So I'm like, it makes sense.
And that was a really important scene for me. Like I love seeing heroes do stuff that's outside of the punching and kicking. Like that's what a hero does. You made a mess, you fix it, right?
Correct, because I felt like in this scene is where he starts to learn responsibility. Like, hey, you messed up right here because you try to save or try to take this type of villains back, but you mess up by taking all power down. So now it's your responsibility to put it back up. So I feel like this was slowly him learning to take responsibility from what his Aunt May teaches him much later down in the movie, where he needs to learn more about responsibility, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah. Steve, what about you? What were some of your favorite moments?
So one of my favorite moments is much like what we've discussed already. Was y'all just gonna stand there, sit here, and look at me naked, like I'm just butt naked. Y'all act like y'all don't see this, and they were like, and then they immediately was like, no, I just they kind of like look away or whatever. I thought that was funny. To me, I feel like Jamie Foxx in the MCU just kind of fits because they always they have those serious moments, but then they turn around and they have the comedic moments really quick. And his comedic timing is really good. So I feel like he actually just fits in the MCU. I would love to see him come back in some way. If they do, I don't know how they're gonna do that, but yeah, I think that would be cool. Their whole their fight sequence or whatever, when Sandman originally shows up, he immediately comes and he helps Electro. You know what I'm saying? He just immediately comes and he helps. And like Josh has said, he was like, he's really a good person. You know what I'm saying? He puts the wall up and he comes to help. That was the only thing though with Sandman though, as far as his character, I felt it was a little weird because the way that they did him, it was like, okay, I just want to go home to my daughter. That's my thing. And then it was like, you know what I'm saying? I guess we'll get to it later, but there was times where it felt like, do you want to go home, bro? Because you don't seem like it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're making this a little more difficult than if you could have just, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So I'm like, there was times with Sandman where I was kind of confused on his character, on what his actual goals was. And I think that could play into like everybody's character in general, though. They all had like some kind of mental thing going on with their personalities, where they were flipping, going back and forth with different things. So I was like, maybe that could be something that's going on with him as well, where he just doesn't know what he actually really wants to do, what his goal is really to go see his daughter or be all about himself. You know what I'm saying?
So that's a really good point that you bring up, because you would think it would be in his best interest to help Peter work on these different cures so that everyone can go home. But, you know, in the end, he's kind of working with Lizard and Electro trying
Yeah.
to get at them. So he's trying to get the box, but it's like, what is he trying to do? Is he trying to get it to push the button so that he can go home? But that's
think
already the
so.
plan. So why work
Yeah.
against them? You know?
Yeah, that was really confusing to me because it was like he was all like, once we healed everybody, we can go home, and then
Yeah.
everybody starts leaving, and he's like, well, let me escape. And it's like, what are you going to go do for these
Yeah.
hours that you're not here?
Yeah, like,
he's
Josh,
I don't
what
want
do you
no
think
part of
about that?
shit? Well, yeah, I agree that it gets a little confusing there, but I think at the beginning, like when in the apartment scene, he's just like, I'm just letting you do what you guys are doing. Eventually, this is going to lead me to get home. But I think towards the end, he's just like, will you guys just fucking do this already so we can do that? And that's why he's just like, just give me the box, basically. But I feel like he's so big and powerful. If we really think about it, that he could have tried a little harder to get that box and press that button if that's really what he wanted to do. Eventually, I think at first, again, because he defaults to be wanting to be a good guy. So I think during the whole apartment scene, the whole thing, he's just kind of standing there like, let's let them do this thing and then we can go home. And then the shit hits the wall and it gets complicated and he's ready to go. But he doesn't like side with the Green Goblin. So it's not like a huge big turn, but it's very
Right.
much like, I don't know. I think he still feels, for better or worse, and whether he wants to be or not, he still feels like more kinship with the bad guys, just because that's kind of what he's lumped in together with. And so like when everybody splits up, maybe he's just like, I guess I'm just going to go with these guys who are also lost and we're going to get this figured out. But at the end of the day, I just want this to be over, kind of thing. But it's hard to juggle that many characters and have that many different motivations. So I think overall they did a pretty good job. But yeah, it definitely gets, if you think too hard about certain ones, it gets a little confusing, you know?
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
why I think why they didn't even really bother with Lizard. They're just like, he'll be there. Whenever we need
Yeah.
a joke, he'll be there, you know?
Even with Lizard, I felt like him and
Sandman?
him and Norman were having like a side conversation, like a side connection, because there was times where when J.K. Simmons shows up and he's like, all right, here we go, and then
Yeah, I
like,
was curious about that.
yeah, and
what
then when
he
Green
meant.
Goblin and Peter are fighting, and he's really wearing Peter out, Peter kind of like climbs on the building like, ooh, I got to get out of here for a little bit. Like, I need a breather. And then the Lizard jumps and throws him back in the building.
Back in the window. Yeah, you're
feel
right.
like him and Goblin kind of had like a little conversation.
I
Like
don't know.
kind of like, and it was just like kind of like sidebar, like times where they were talking, they was like, oh, I hear you, bro. Like it was like speaking in code, like kind of. And I feel like I wish I had more time to like watch the movies and I can rewind and stuff. Because I felt like I was like, bro, there's something going on with the way that Lizard is like, okay, here we go. And then when he kind of throws him back in there during the fight, and was like, I told you there'd be consequences, like things like that. I'm like, okay, is he working with the Green Goblin? Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot more closer than what we thinking? Or is
Potentially,
it just,
man. Like it's
maybe it's in a deleted scene or something?
Yeah, it's
I'm
all
like,
subtext. You're right though. When he's in that van and he says said what you said, that makes a lot of sense. Like I wasn't sure, like what is he talking about? Who's he talking to? What's he waiting for? And they don't really get into it, but he does definitely help Green Goblin for sure in some way, you know, whether it's planned or not.
yeah. Jumping back a little bit, there is something that did bug me in this movie overall, and it's Electro coming into the 616 universe, right? The spell says everyone that knew the identity of Spider-Man. Electro never saw his face, and then even at the end of the movie he says, oh, now that I see your face, I see that you're just a kid. I always thought you were black because you would help poor people and you're working in the city. So it's like, how he didn't know his identities. How does that work?
So here's how I've come to terms with it, because there's two plot holes in this movie to me, two bigger ones. There's a couple smaller ones too, but this is a big one for sure. And if you go back and watch the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, like two things about it. So one, I don't think that he necessarily has to know his face, but at least his name. And two things lead it to like the possibility. The first one is that when he's like sucking up all the energy at the very end, he says he's gathering all of the data and stuff. He's getting data as well. And when he gets knocked out by the car when Gwen Stacy drives in, but right, like she says Peter to him as she's running away, and immediately he opens his eyes. So it's possible that he heard Peter and gained that information, pieced together. So I feel like there's some wiggle room there. It's definitely not black and white, and it's probably a plot hole. But if you really want to dig into it, I think you can probably scrape together enough. You know,
I'll take that.
Plus, to add on top of that, Harry Osborn let go of Electro, and he said that we both have hatred for Spider-Man. So yes, he didn't say Peter, but he said that we both have hatred for Spider-Man. So he already knew about said person, Spider-Man. He just didn't know who Spider-Man identity was at the time. So like he kind of probably figured at the end with all the data, and he put pieces together with Gwen Stacy at the end as well.
We're grasping
Yeah.
at crumbs, but I think they're there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. He says that line. We saw him doing it, so it's definitely possible. So moving on to the next scene, this is where we see Norman in the alley, and he's battling with his internal demon. He smashes the mask, and I love that this was like very reminiscent of when Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker left his Spider-Man suit in the trash. I believe in Spider-Man 2, like the framing was pretty similar, and those moments are pretty parallel of each other, leaving a part of yourself behind. So I really, really like that. And I love that this film also gives us like our first like real introduction to Feast into the MCU. Like for me, like this is a huge like Miles Morales Easter egg. Miles puts in a lot of time at Feast, so I love getting these little Easter eggs. And this is where like these moments where Willem Dafoe really shines, right? Where he's playing Norman Osborn, but you're hearing the maniacal Green Goblin in his head. And I love this. And he's going around someone's living in my home. Oscorp doesn't exist. And he finds his way to Feast, and he finds his way to Aunt May. Aunt May calls Peter, and he comes there. And Peter is saying, like, I gotta get him back. I gotta get it back to his universe. It doesn't matter. This isn't my problem. And this is the beginning of Aunt May telling him, no, it definitely is your problem. Like, this is what we do. We help people. The reason why Feast exists is so that we can help people. So this was an essential moment for his growth as a person and as a hero. So this was one of my favorite moments of the movie. So Josh, I'm going to toss it to you. Like, what did you think of that Feast sequence with Norman Osborn and Aunt May reminding Peter of why he does what he does?
Yeah, it makes me want to talk more about Osborn, but I'm going to wait for some of that stuff for the apartment scene because it's just so fucking good. But for that scene specifically, I think it's great that he gets there and immediately like, tries to separate himself from that part of himself, the evil part of himself. And Peter's so scared. He runs in there. He thinks that Aunt May is going to be in trouble, which again is kind of like mirroring what's about to happen because he feels something impending and he gets there and it's just some normal guy, the guy that eventually is going to end up killing her. And so I thought that in retrospect is very powerful, but it's just Defoe's acting is just so fantastic throughout all of it. And it just seems like a man that is losing his mind and is scared. Again, it tells us for sure, does Oscorp exist in the universe? Because we weren't super sure if they just haven't introduced it to us yet or not, but we've confirmed that it does not exist as far as he's concerned. Yeah, I like, and again, it's mirroring to me, and I'm just thinking about this now. It's mirroring that scene where one, again, she's with the person that's about to kill her, and two, she almost says the power and responsibility line there. She basically paraphrases it, and again, that same scene. It's to me, it's just like a perfect mirror of what's about to happen. So, and that's just coming to me now. It's blowing my mind. It's just really good writing,
Mm-hmm.
Steve, what were your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, so that whole scene, and I love the fact that we get to see William Dafoe really go bam bam. Like he went from crazy, and then he's going like, "Oh, I'm super scared. Like I don't know what to do." Like his acting in this movie was just he was really really on point, and it was just like he just needs more flowers because like it shouldn't just be just because he's playing Green Goblin. He should be in more movies. He should be.
He's
like,
great, man.
I don't know. We need more of him. I don't care where we put him in, put him in more. But he was just like, I just love the fact that he was just like, he was showing how scared he was. He just wanted to get help. He was like, I saw your poster. I saw Spider-Man, and I just knew that this was the place to come to. And so then you get the Aunt May, like you get the dialogue, how she's telling them this is what we do and this stuff like that. And like much like Josh said, the second time going in, I'm like, okay, it makes so much sense. You're the Uncle Ben of this storyline. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the only difference is we got two other movies where we got to see y'all build the relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas this one was, the part where we got to see where she's telling you need to be responsible and things like that. So I really enjoyed that whole scene and everything like that. And the way that he just busts through the door in Feast, like he's like, well, you already know my identity anyway. He's
Right,
just kind of
like-
like running through. Like I love that. Like he's just like, fuck it. And he was just like, he ran in there like he was just ready to help because he was like, I seen this dude on the bridge. You know what I'm saying? Last time I seen him he was blowing stuff up. So he's here. What do you mean he's here? So he kind of is just there like to rescue the day, and that I really love that.
Vash, what about you?
I really love that they broke the mask because it shows that we, the audience, couldn't tell who was playing who. Was Green Goblin playing Norman or Norman playing Green Goblin? So I love how, like, the audience, we couldn't even tell because once he did the little switch back at the apartment, you're like, oh shit, it's fucking Goblin the whole time. So he was tricking, like, Norman's actually asleep deep down. So I've been here. I'm like, oh shit. So I just love how they broke the mask for a reason, is to trick us, the audience, is to trick, and not to have on Peter or Doc Ock, nobody know who is who. Since Doc Ock might have guessed which one is which, so that's why he broke the mask, and that's one of the smartest things. And for that scene at the feast, I felt it was beautiful. I was looking to see if there's any type of Easter egg for the Negative Man or anything like that for Miles, but I didn't catch anything. But just to see him running there and just asking, just asking for his arm, like, hey, I gotta take them back, and just to give, like Josh said, to give that paraphrase speech, like, great power, with great power, with great responsibility. I felt it was beautiful because that's where he learned a bit, like, my boy, you cause a problem, you gotta fix it. You're responsible to fix the problem that you caused, and this is something that he did. And Ame had to make sure that he understood this, and I love that very much because our Peter didn't comprehend this until his Aunt May explained it to him very well. MJ and Ned try to help, but when Aunt May explained, like, hey, you gotta fix this. You can't just send them back to die. You gotta cure them. And like the way she said, like, we here to help people. If we can, we gotta help them. So I just love that very much. Like, it's so human. It's a human side that helps our Peter become who he is at the end of the film.
Yeah. So K-Dub, I'll make a comment on that. So I actually think it was Norman throughout that entire feast scene, but the moment that they get to the Sanctum dungeon, that's all Goblin. It's all Goblin from that moment until the end of the film. I saw it. Willem Dafoe is such an amazing actor. You can see him toting the line. You can see him as Goblin trying to play as if he's Norman Osborn. He's such a great actor in everything that he does. So I knew it, the way that he stands, the way that he holds himself, the way that he talks, it was all Goblin from the dungeon onward. So let's get into that, right?
Yeah. Says, I'm kind of a scientist myself.
Oh, yeah. It immediately
makes you think it makes you think of
also,
when he said
also, when he said that somebody else is living inside his home, and then when he said about Harry, he didn't finish that line. So Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn could be in this universe because he didn't finish saying that line of Harry. Because I watched the film too, and he never finished that line. So those characters still probably exist. We just never know what happens.
My thing is, who are they in 616? Because it's alluded to that he knows on Norman Osborn, but it's not one that owns Oscorp. They're not a tech person at all. So who is Norman Osborn in 616 universe? So that's very interesting to think.
I think it'd be really fun to have him go to college and he starts meeting all these people, and they're all the people with the names of the people that he's heard about in these other universes. He's like, what is happening?
I hope so. That there's a college professor that say you have chemistry. Well,
Dr. Kurt
like,
Connors.
wait a minute. I just thought, oh my God, this is his origin story. Fuck. I gotta stay away from it. Like, I just hope this is in the next trilogy that he meets these exact people.
Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn, like all these people.
Yeah.
So
but towards what James said, it'll be curious to see where Norman Osborn is in the universe because he's a Harry. So I assume he's gonna meet him in college. I don't know where Norman's gonna be because he's probably not rich, or if he is rich, he probably does other stuff that's, off the books in the government side. So probably that's why he didn't know, or it was stuff that was classified, restricted. Who knows? I'm just throwing it out there.
It's curious to me that you guys had different ideas of when the Green Goblin was coming out, because for me, what I thought it was is when they're in that apartment scene and his spider sense goes like insane. I thought that was like the turning over of like the Green Goblin's coming back out of the, you know.
I think it was fully on when Doc Ock asks, "Hey, there's no more Dark half. Are you proud of that?" That's when I feel like the Goblin's like, "Damn, you bitch! You had to talk about me behind my back."
It was Goblin the whole time. The reason why
I feel like
Peter
he was there
picked
the
it
whole
up.
time.
The reason why Peter
that's when
picked
he
it up at
turned.
that moment is simply because Peter just finished all of the cures, right? The cures for each one. So that malice that he was feeling was starting to peak out a lot more because they were getting very close to them using it on him. That's what
Jamie
I
Foxx
think.
too. He was thinking about. He's like, I don't know about this. He was like, he was thinking about
like
turning bad real
shaky
quick. Yeah.
As the light was
Yeah.
going, he's like, I
Yeah,
don't know. This don't feel right.
No lie. I'm not a big fan of the shaky scene because I felt like he was I felt like he was a bit like a drug addict right there in that scene. I felt like, he just couldn't stay control.
Well,
But
I mean, if you think about
makes
it,
sense.
he's
It
he's
makes
high on a
sense.
drug, right? And it's being taken away from him. He's going into withdrawal, right? So at a rapid rate. So you have to think about how that affects him mentally, like chemically in his brain, and like it's just so much attention to detail with all of this. So we're already talking about the apartment sequence. So let's get into that.
Yes. Let's
So
get into it.
so right before that, they're all in the dungeon, and the villains are all talking amongst themselves, and they all realize that some of them have died at the hand, well, not at the hands of Peter Parker, but in the midst of fighting Peter Parker, right? So we find all of this stuff out, and this is pretty much where Peter realizes, wait, I can't send them back yet. It is because what Aunt May said and because of what I know, it is my responsibility to save these people if I can. I have to at least try, right? So I love this sequence where Doctor Strange says, in the grand calculus of the multiverse, their deaths have like greater weight than them living. I'm paraphrasing the line. I know it's completely different, but I thought that was such an important line because I align with that. I don't think that their lives are worth the multiverse, but Peter was right. He was able to help them and then send them back, right? So that's another thing that Strange has to learn is more patience.
That's my plot hole. Like, you fix them. What does that really solve when they send them back? Don't they still fight Spider? Like,
no, there's no reason. There's no
don't
reason for them to fight Spider-Man if they don't have powers. Remember, so the whole thing of fixing Doc Ock's neural link is so that he's in control of the arms. If he's in control of the arms, he doesn't rob any banks. He doesn't try to create this fusion engine that he knows will destroy the entire city. So that never happens. If you cure Dr. Kurt Connors, he never turns into the Lizard. He never tries to turn other people into lizards. Same thing with Electro. You take away his powers, he's not there in that moment. So taking away their abilities puts them back into their original universes and changes the timeline so that they don't interact with Spider-Man.
Do you think Electro goes back? Do you think Electro goes back handsome, or is he nerdy again with
I think he's
comb over and shit again?
Definitely, because it's a different universe, right? Like that's how he looked originally.
Over in the space between
he might not have the gap tooth anymore because when he got the Electro powers, that fixed it, you know?
Oh, he did?
Or because now that he's human in this form and this was when his powers was taken away, maybe he stays the same. Maybe.
Yeah. Listen, kids, don't try that at home. Electrocuting yourself does not straighten your teeth.
It's not gonna work.
And also, don't jump into eels or to a pot of sand with a big fusion reactor. Because
I don't know. I would kind of love to have those powers, especially the sandy one. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, Sandman's powers are
really,
really,
dirty
really
your
cool.
couch a lot.
Happy calls. He said, "Did you bring a mud guy?"
Yeah, made a mud.
He said, you got a cyborg in my house.
So Peter takes.
Did we discuss the mirror dimension yet?
No, so that's what I'm about to get into. So Peter takes the cube from Doctor Strange, and this is where we get this incredible fight sequence between Doctor Strange and Peter. So one of my favorite things from this sequence was and we saw it in the trailer a bunch of times, but it was still amazing watching it in the theater with a bunch of people, pushes his astral form out of his body. But because of Peter's like
Spidey sense.
different spider sense, because it's on a different level, his body still reacts and is still moving, trying to evade Doctor Strange. And I love that we actually get to see his spider sense in his astral form. I thought that was really, really cool. And the fact that he was able to somewhat counteract the magic of it and pull himself back into his own body. So Josh, what did you think about that scene? And then you can just go into your thoughts about the fight in the mirror dimension.
Yeah, it was badass, especially the fight, because I just love, in this movie, they show Peter Parker as being super smart, and I don't know that they really showed that in the first two as much as they could have. So like, there are a couple scenes in here where he's really like when he uses the math, or when they're doing the sciencey stuff, when they're all the Spider-Men together. I just really love that stuff, because that's like so true to the character. Like he almost always in the comic books, he gets his ass kicked the first time, and then he does some kind of experiment depending on what the person is made out of, and then he comes back and wins the fight. And I just love that stuff so much. So it worked for me really well, and the fight was awesome. Obviously, visually, the mirror dimension is fucking awesome, just in general. And you know, Doctor Strange is all powerful, but again, he may be more powerful than Peter in certain ways, but he, you know, he's just got outsmarted. You just can't beat the brain of that kid. So it was great. And I did love I thought it was really a clever addition to the spider sense thing, because I bet they were writing that and what would happen in that case, and like, of course he would just be like moving away from it. It's just like, it's perfect.
Yeah, man, I loved it. Steve, what about you, man?
That was the main thing. Seeing the Spidey senses in the astral form, I thought that was really cool, because it was like, you're like, do he have the Spidey sense like everybody in the other movies? Because in the first two movies, he has the Spidey sense moment, but he just kind of glares. He doesn't really actually do it. So I thought that was cool that they actually showed the tingly things in the astral form. And then when they're in the mirror world and they're like going, and Doctor Strange like opens one portal and opens another portal, and he ends up webbing himself in the foot. And I was just like, oh yeah, this is cool. But yeah, that whole like fight and everything. And then when Doctor Strange, like, he grabs him with the rope, kind of grabs his waist, and he's trying to pull him away. And it's just like a whole bunch of like different, like chaotic moments, because it's just like this fight would be pretty much like this. But at the same time, it's like Spider-Man's trying to escape. He's using his intellect, his mind to escape. And Doctor Strange is not going all out. So there's some people that was like, oh yeah, Spider-Man would beat Doctor Strange because he's smart geometry. I was like, bro, he's not going all. I was like, he's not going nowhere close to all out. I was like, usually when he uses those little whips and things like that, they slice through things. This one is grabbing Peter.
They're all pulling their punches. They don't want to kill each other, you know?
Yeah, I was all like, come on, man. But there's some people that just felt that way, that Spider-Man would get the best of Doctor Strange because of that geometry scene. And I was just like, y'all got to be better than this.
Which still, if you told me 20 years ago that I will see a scene between Doctor Strange versus Spider-Man, and Spider-Man wins because of geometry, I'm like, nah, that's bullshit. And then seeing it happen, like, that's my worst subject. I would have lost to Doctor Strange if it was algebra or trig, or if it was Cal 1, I would have probably won. But go geometry, I would have lost him. Like, nah.
Yeah, man.
Peter.
I absolutely love the fact that he was able to temporarily stop Doctor Strange using geometry.
Yeah.
You know, I thought...
You can't feel...
Stay in school, kids.
And you can't feel too bad. You can't feel too bad for him leaving him there, because he was going to do the same thing. He's like, you stay here and I'll let you know when it's done. So it's like, you can't feel too bad.
The one thing that I did love too is when the cape had Spider-Man. And
yes.
I got to get a figurine or something of that, because that was like really
cool. There's
not
a pop for that, bro.
I want Ned
sure,
with the...
Not sure if there was turned up an Easter egg for that from what happened to What If episode 8 in the Zombies episode, because that's when Peter had the cape as well. So not sure if that was an Easter egg for that, but like to see him have that, oh shit, I was doing like for quick like 2-3 seconds.
Yeah, I think it was a nod to the What If animated series and the What If comic, where, you know, what if Spider-Man became the Sorcerer Supreme. So it was just great to see all of those parallels coming together. Like that fight in the mirror dimension was amazing. Like the visual effects are just absolutely insane throughout this entire film, and you can just see like Doctor Strange's like mastery of like using the mirror dimension. So I thought all of that stuff was like so cool. So Spider-Man uses... Go ahead.
I was just saying, I agree with K-Dub because it just also gives the audience a reminder that he's still a kid. He feels like he just won a battle against Doctor Strange, but it goes back to what Steve said, that they weren't going all serious. But for him, as Peter, he just felt like he just went all out against Doctor Strange, and he takes this as a W. But that reminds us to the audience that he's still a kid, and he just felt like he won against a hero,
Yeah,
and
I
like
just
he
I
knows
just
that
thought Doctor Strange.
how much respect he has, and like, oh shit, I just beat Doctor Strange. Here, you take this, you take that. Let's go, let's split. So I just love that scene very much as well.
I'm 32. If I did that to Doctor Strange, I'm telling all my friends.
I just beat Doctor Strange. I totally won. So, and
I'm like, did
you know
really?
there's gonna be an
Like,
Avengers movie,
And I stole his sling ring.
you know there's gonna be an Avengers movie later on down the line, and he's gonna bring it up, and Doctor Strange is gonna be like, "Oh my god!"
I hope so. I hope so. He'll be like, "Yo, I beat you over there." I'm like, when? I don't have no memory of this.
Oh yeah. He'd probably be
really?
like, "I don't remember that. I don't remember that at
Like,
all."
I'm like, did it really happen? Because nobody else remembers, just you. So are you sure it wasn't a dream or a nightmare? You
Yeah.
know, probably because it was Mephisto part of it.
Mephisto confirmed. So let's get into the apartment scene. So Peter finally gets away from them, away from Doctor Strange, and him and Aunt May uses Happy's condo as a place to take all of the villains in order to help cure them, right? So I thought this was a really, really cool sequence. Like, we get the reintroduction of the Stark Fabricator, and this is where Electro sees the arc reactor for the first time, and you can just see his eyes light up. He can see the infinite amount of energy, because remember, that reactor is a new element that hasn't been discovered anywhere else. Like, you can only imagine the type of power that can power a city for lifetimes, right? So with Electro using that power, you can see where the film is going from that point. So one of my favorite moments in this was just like, I think it was Goblin, but Goblin and Peter working on the new neural link for Doc Ock, and then relieving him from the arms and bringing him back to normal, and watching Alfred Molina's incredible performance coming back to the normal Dr. Otto Octavia. So that was one of my favorite moments in there. But Josh, I want to start with you. What were some of your favorite moments and biggest standouts from the apartment scene before the Goblin and Peter fight?
Oh, before that, okay. I'm so itching to talk about that.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, you're the boss, buddy. But no, the apartment scene from start to finish, it's hard because I just love the other Spider-Man so much, and everything with Garfield is my favorite. I want him to have my Spider babies, but the apartment scene, other than that, is my favorite scene of the movie. It's just like so great, and I won't get into the Goblin scene yet because I think we will probably talk about that individually because it's just so badass. But I like the changing the characters. To me, this is why, especially when he's helping him make the Neuralink, which makes me think that it was still at least partially Norman Osborn there, because I don't know the motivation of Goblin helping him actually create that. And it seemed like a genuine moment of like, wow, you're a really smart kid. If you actually lived in my area, you'd have a job for you. That to me seemed, at least for a glimpse of maybe Norman was poking back through or something. But I loved how they were working together. And everybody kept their personality, and Alfred Molina was doing a great job too. He killed it in these roles too. Like, everyone's given Defoe the credit, which he deserves as well, but Mulaney plays it really, really well too, and very nuanced. You know, he's just like grumpy and pissed basically the whole time, and then instantly turns back into his normal self as soon as that link comes on. I think that's a really powerful moment, and there's like a split second where they let it sit for quite a while where you're like, did he just kill him?
Yeah, did he just fail? He killed him?
Yeah,
right. I'm like, oh shit.
And I like how he didn't. Yeah, I like how he didn't succeed in everything. Like, we know in a little bit that the Norman one didn't work. You know, so he's able with the tech stuff, and maybe Norman helped him in the wrong ways, or maybe he's not the shit.
Oh, definitely.
For sure. But I don't know. I liked it. I like all the Mulaney stuff. I think he came back to the role and was just like he never left it. You know.
Yeah. I was about to say, I feel like Norman was there. I mean, Goblin was there, and he kind of was like, "We're not gonna fix nothing."
Yeah, he was playing Norman. That's what Norman would say, and he was playing into it. Like, but I mean, you could be right, Josh.
Who knows?
He did fail, yeah. But I definitely thought that scene where he like pauses and he's like laying there for a while, I thought like, okay, the villains are gonna snap, because they're like, we can't trust you. You look what
Right.
you just did. So that's what I thought was going to happen. I thought like, oh, he just killed Doc Ock by accident, and they're going to be like, no, we got to get up out of here. And then that's what I thought was going to happen. But and he woke up and he came to, and he was like, it's so quiet. Like that moment was just like so cool to me. Like it was like powerful because he was so relieved and he was happy.
So
that,
grateful too.
Yeah, he was like, oh, it's so quiet. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I doubted you. You know what I'm saying? It was so cool. And then like he gives the nanomites back, and you get the other Spider-Man suit. You know what I'm saying? So so I thought that was pretty cool too. But that whole like scene in general, and then it's like Happy gives the phone call and he's like, hey man, you got a cyborg in my house. He's like, who's that on my camera? And he's like, you got a mud man? He's like, call me back. He's like, and he hangs up or whatever. And I just thought that was funny. And like how Electro kind of like reacts to, like JB alluded to, the arc reactor is in there and he can feel it. He can feel the power. And honestly and truthfully, if Electro gets the arc reactor in the comic books, that's a whole different power. I feel like they nerfed him in this movie for that, because the arc reactor and Electro, that's a whole lot of power.
I'll argue that. I don't think they nerfed him because he was beating the shit out of all three of them. It wasn't until Doc Ock showed up and ran interference that he was thrown off guard. So I was like, he was really powerful in that moment.
I was thinking like even Doc Ock just randomly just grabbing it. I thought that was too easy. I was like, no, they would have to work for that. But
Garfield was taking a healthy bolt for like a long time. He was like suspended in the air doing all that stuff.
Boy, he was literally getting zapped there for almost a good 45 seconds.
And great callback to the Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well.
Yeah, I'm like, is nobody gonna grab my boy? Like he's literally getting zapped there, but Steve, like you're saying, like I don't think he got nerfed either, because like they was getting the work. Like Toby, Tom, and them, like they were going swinging around. And the first round of them trying to do some good, they was not doing great. Like they just had no communication, they had nothing going on. And plus Electro and them just was causing them trouble.
Yeah, but we'll get there. I don't want to say too much on that topic. But Vash, what about you? Like, what were your thoughts on like the whole apartment scene? Like, what were some of your favorite moments?
I'm just glad I'm drinking water and not salt water, because I'm May. Girl, I get it. He's Doc Ock. His name is
love
Octavius.
that Octavius doesn't get it. He's like, what? I love that he has no idea what's happening. How does he not put it together? It's like, dude, Otto Octavius.
He's
like,
just
you
not
have 6
moved for
arms,
shit
like an
at all,
octopus.
I guess technically, he never called himself Dr. Octopus.
Well, so definitely not. But he's so smart, you would think is like he would put it together.
I'm in the same boat as Josh. I just feel like he was so over it. Like he don't want to be in his apartment. He don't want to be with his bullshit. He's tired of being, tied up with his own tentacles out here. So I feel like he was tired of his bullshit. So like once she acts like, yo, I'm just thirsty. Can you not ask me what I want? Just give me some water, give me some drink. That's it. So I just felt like he was annoyed. And just seeing Goblin or AK Norman or AK whoever, the one that's actually taking control, with Peter, just seeing both of them work together, it just reminded me of watching the movie last night of Toby and Norman, of how both of them just are two science guys, like both of a scientist myself, and just working together. But then knowing what happens 2, then 5, then 10 minutes later, it's like, oh shit, you a bitch, my dude. Oh, you a big bitch. You literally sat here working on a science project with Peter, with Tom, just trying to build something, and then you just fuck his whole life over. So like this scene was really the epicenter of what caused the whole domino effect throughout the rest of the film. And to me, it really made it impactful, very hurtful, but very impactful as hell.
Yeah, I love everything about this sequence because, like I said before, I love the hero moments where it's not just about punching and kicking, just watching Peter use the fabricator, working with Osborn, trying to find these different things, trying to re-engineer the gas that turned Lizard into what he looks like, right? Trying to re-engineer a cure for Osborn, trying to find a way to cure Electro so that they can send them back, so that they can at least have like full lives, right? Like that's what makes a hero. That's what Aunt May was talking about the entire time. So that's some of my favorite stuff in this movie. But Peter's spider sense goes off. He realizes what Norman's plan is, and then Norman talks about gods don't negotiate, they take, right? Also, I'm paraphrasing again, and I love that look in Electro's eyes. It's like, you know what? Yes, I am a god. I don't need to do this, right? I can go off on my own. And this is where Lizard, Electro, Sandman, Doc Ock, they all split apart. And then we get this incredible fight sequence between Peter and Green Goblin. I love this sequence so much because it took me straight back to the first Spider-Man when we had that fight between Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Green Goblin. It was such a brutal fight between them. I love the scene where Peter's punching the shit out of Osborn's face and he's just smiling and laughing and having the time of his life, and I just love that. Well, another one of my favorite moments is where Green Goblin literally throws him into the roof of the hallway, catches him, flips him, and they just go through all of the floors until they get to the main floor. I was losing my mind because of the sheer brutality of it. Like, he's so good in that Green Goblin Road, and he fought to do as many stunts as possible. So knowing that it was actually Willem Dafoe, like, doing a lot of this stuff, like, it was just so good to me, man. Love that fight. So Josh, want to toss it to you. What were some of your favorite moments from that fight between Peter and Green Goblin? And then we'll talk about Aunt May's death.
Yeah, it was fantastic. This is my favorite part. And I just think that, you know, you did get to see a lot of Green Goblin's power in the first movie, but this one, I think just from visual effects and a lot of things have progressed, but this really shows how absolutely strong, like a lot of people don't realize in the comics, like if you look at the power levels of characters, like when Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin, his power level is very close to Captain America. It's like the serums are very similar, and you don't really feel that until he's like smashing them through walls and like taking fistfuls of Spider-Man's fist. Because again, Spider-Man is also an incredibly strong character, and he pulls his punches with almost everybody because he could like snap their neck with one punch. But I think especially at the end of the movie, he's given him pretty much all that he's got, and Norman is still taking it and barely even phased by these punches at all. And it's just like the raw power is in insanity too. He's like the MCU's Joker in a way, you know, just chaos and destruction, and there's no humanity behind those eyes at all. He just wants people to die, and you know, it's incredible. And that scene was done so perfectly. And Defoe just friggin' kills it. They got to take that mask off to show that crazy face of his. You know, it just worked so well. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love the fact that he's like laughing like the Joker, almost like as he's getting punched in the face. He's like, "Yeah, that a boy." He's like,
Yeah.
give it to me." He's like, he's loving every minute. So I fucking love that. And then just in the scene, in the sequence or whatever, Peter's caught off guard himself, and he's just like, "Oh snap!" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even though he like knows that he's a villain, I think the first initial like punch and kick caught Peter off guard. He was like, "Yo, he really, he really got something behind these punches and stuff like that."
I mean,
So,
besides Cap, he's never fought anyone even remotely close to his own strength, and you know Cap was pulling his punches. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and so he kicks him through the door or whatever, and then like Peter literally seems like he's like, "I need to like get a minute." That's why he's crawling on the outside of the wall. He's like, "I need a minute." You know what I'm saying? He's like, "I need a minute," and he's like crawling out there, and then like I said earlier, Lizard comes out of nowhere and just like, "Yo, I told you there'd be consequences," and throws him back in the building, and then we get the super power bomb from hell.
right, dude, I jumped out of my chair. I'm like, oh my god,
Bro,
the pain.
I felt like I was watching a wrestling match back in the Attitude Era, because the way Green Goblin normally just kept Tombstone, Pedigree, literally just going from floor to floor and bring him down all the way to the fucking first floor of the lobby. I was like, "Yo, don't you live on the 13th floor or something like that?" Like,
Dude.
like
I love the fact that he looked at the camera before he did it too. He like looks up, he gives this like evil glare, and then he slams. It's like he's looking at everybody in the audience, like, "Hey, you see what I'm gonna do? You want to see something cool?" Kind of like, and then he slams him.
It was so dope, and I felt this was like, it hurt seeing this. My favorite character is Spider, you know, going through this, but he needed it. Like, he needed to see what an actual type of enemy is on a ground level. Like, yeah, You fought fucking Thanos. You went to fucking space, but that was a teamwork type of thing. Now this is a one-on-one, a ground level type of villain for you that you've never fought before, and this is Goblin, your arch enemy, to fight. And I felt like this was just perfect for him to like. This was his fucking wake up call as a character and as him to become the actual friendly neighborhood Spidey. So I felt it was perfect, even though he got his ass whipped the first round, like hard body. But I felt like it was needed for his character to actually understand what it is to understand to pull your punches and actually fight back and actually understand that this was a real battle for you. Other than what you went through Thanos and everything, that was real. But this was close to home, like actually in your backyard. This was in Queens, in Long Island City, by the Coca-Cola sign, and actually was there not that long ago. So that was also dope too.
Yeah, I mean, K-Dub, so I think they're just taking their time with Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like, this trilogy, like we talked about before, this trilogy is essentially an origin story, and the next trilogy is where we're going to get, like, the real, like, more experienced Peter Parker, because even in the other films, the only time we really saw a test of his strength was in, like, that YouTube video where he pretty much stops a bus, and then when all of those like pillars fall on him in Homecoming, and then he has to lift all of that debris. So those are like really great like examples of his strength.
Feats,
yeah. But like I think we'll get way more of that in like the next trilogy, and I absolutely can't wait to see it. So let's get to. Go ahead.
I was just gonna add to that that also people understand that Spidey as a character, he never tests his strength or tests his skills until during the battles, actually. So when he first fights in the comics and also fights in the movies, he don't actually test his real strength until during the battles that he actually goes through. So that's his character. Like, he don't actually know his full strength or knows actually his true potential until when he fights his opponents. So he actually learns what he fights and improves his skills. That's why he improves his gadgets, and like what he does later in the end of the film, makes his own costume, like that he improves while he goes. Like, one of his line in the beginning of the film, which I love, that he's one of the most famous person in the world, but he's still broke. That shit was fucking hit home. I was like, damn, you fucking like doing mad work, but you still broke. I'm like, damn. I can understand that because that is his character, Peter. He's one of the most famous person as Spider-Man, but he's the one of the most brokest person as a hero.
And
so
I love
like,
that.
That shit is so real.
I love that because we saw that in Falcon and Winter Soldier too, right? Like even Falcon couldn't get a fucking loan, bro. Like he saved the universe. Like Falcon couldn't even get a loan. So it's like I like stuff like that. So let's talk about Aunt May's death, right? So Aunt May's at the bottom floor. She hits Osborn with the serum, but of course it doesn't work because I think he helped design it that way to make sure that it wouldn't work. And she gets hit with the glider, reminiscent of his own death in his own universe. And the moment she got hit, I was like, yeah, Aunt May's done. And I was just getting ready for the tears to start. One thing about the speech that she gives, and it wasn't forced at all, one thing that I loved was that Aunt May gave the original speech from the first comic, the first time that it's ever said. Aunt May says it the way it is in the comic, because in all of the other movies, it's kind of like the Star Wars thing where it's like, Luke, I am your father. That's not the line. He says, no, I am your father. So in like Tobey's movie and Andrew Garfield's movies, we've gotten, with great power comes great responsibility. That's not what it is in the comics. In the comics, it's actually, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. So that hit me so hard that they went super deep back to the original comic, the first time Uncle Ben says that to Peter and pulls that and gives that moment to Aunt May. And it's such a brilliant moment that even in this moment, she sees all the potential that Peter has, and he has to use that power to help people. And I just absolutely love that scene. Like, it was incredibly heartbreaking. One of the millions of times that I cried in the film. So, Josh, what did you think about Aunt May's death and her delivering the famous line, with great power?
Yeah, it was all super surprising to me. I did not think that they were going to kill Aunt May, just because it's just never happened before in these movies. And I think Marissa Tomei is just such an awesome actress, and they're lucky to have her. And so I was super surprised. And she stood back up. It's like, okay, she's going to be all right. And then she was not okay. And then she delivered the line. So it was just like surprise after surprise after surprise, very heartbreaking. And I think Tom Holland played it perfectly. Like, he played trauma. Like when you're in that, he kind of rambling, not making sense, asking her like, to look at him and stuff when he knows that she's already dead. And it's just very tragic the way that he played that scene. It was very effective and very sad and very surprising.
Yeah. Well, that scene in general, like when she stood up and she was like kind of like, trying to move around and stuff, you could see her arms shaking and her legs were like weak and wiggling and stuff. And I was like, oh, she's not gonna make it. But like something in me was like maybe, possibly. But once she just started shaking some more, I was like, no, she's out of there. And then she kind of like she collapsed a little bit and she stands back up. And then Peter's like, oh, okay, everything's cool. It's cool. And then like he finally touches her and he feels the blood and he's like, yo, what happened? But and that moment in general was that scene in general was really good. It was great acting by Marissa Tomei. Just her like, holding on for last moments and things like that. But on top of that, it was great from Tom Holland's perspective as well, because he was so confused. He was showing the confusion of like, yo, you were just fine. What just happened? What happened? Like, what I'm saying? How are you bleeding? What, what I'm saying? It was like you could see like that confusion in that moment for him, and it was really good acting. And then like when Josh just said, like when he was like, will you look at me, please? Like, will you just look at me? Like that moment was just tough. I was like, that was better. That was better than the other Ben moments to me by far. Like I was like, yo, this is a really good scene. And then it shows that like what we know, these universes are connected, like how they said in What If, but everybody has their own different path in a sense. So this was his Uncle Ben moment. You know what I'm saying? So for those people that thought What If wasn't canon, like some of the things that they said in What If made a lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? So that this moment was just basically this version's, this universe's Spider-Man. This was his Uncle Ben moment. This was his it. So I really like thought that was really cool, like that whole dynamic, as far as like the parallel universes. But it was really, really powerful scene.
So I
It's just
thought she was going to die in the film. I just didn't want it to happen. And the reason why I thought so is that there's elements of this film that are very loosely based on Spider-Man One More Day,
I was gonna say the
where Aunt
same.
May does die and he goes to Doctor Strange trying to get Doctor Strange to fix it. Spider-Man works his way around to talking to Mephisto, who tells him that in order to bring Aunt May back, pretty much he has to erase his marriage with Mary Jane and no one knows who he is. So there's like very small moments that are, very reminiscent of One More Day. And I'm like, just don't kill Aunt May. Do everything else. Like I can take that sadness, but to see Aunt May go, like Peter doesn't have his parents. He lost Uncle Ben. He lost Tony. He lost Aunt May now. It's just so much tragedy in his life. This is something that heroes have to deal with, right? They have all of this power, and in the moments that kind of matter the most, sometimes they can't save the people that they love the most, right? Like Toby losing Gwen, right? Or like Flash, not being able to just save his mom, right? Saving one woman breaks reality and every existence is just destroyed, right? So these Superman, right, him having the powers of a god but not being able to save his own father that got cancer or whatever it is in whatever comic that you're reading, right, that makes him die. So I just love these moments with characters. It's truly tragic, but these are all moments that they all go through.
That's the best part of the storytelling in superheroes. They're super powered people, but they're the thing that makes them more relatable is the times that they're powerless, where they, what I'm saying, they can't do anything about it. And they're just powerless to do anything about what's going to happen. And I think that's what make the whole storytelling in superheroes that much more relatable and better.
It just makes me wonder, what did Tom had to tap into to feel and show this type of emotion? Like this is one of the best scenes acted from him in the emotional side that I've not seen him in the past couple of films or in any of his filmography. To imagine himself crying that much and showing his eyes that tear and to see that type of emotions and to see what James brought up. I had a feeling Anya was gonna die in this film when I came in, but I was just like, she's good so far, good so far. And then once I saw the glider literally hit her, I'm like, nah, this bitch is dead. No way. There's no way. There's no way she's not gonna survive this. Like this glider literally smack her goes across almost 20 feet away. There's no way. Like if Ned got magic and if she survives, all right, cool. Then everyone has some type of plot armor. I'm like, somebody got some shit going on here. But then once she got, I'm like, all right, cool, come on. She survives to the line that she's fine, but then she ain't fine. And then once she said it, she's I'm fine. I didn't catch me, but like, oh no, damn girl about to die. So I felt like I was that picture about Shia LaBeouf, excited, and then crying myself because I was breaking down when I saw her actually just crying and like, sorry, not crying, like dying there in front of Peter's hands and him feeling that he's responsible. But she just gave that speech saying with great power also comes with great responsibility, and to know that he finally got the line. And what people need to understand that Kevin Feige had, have said it in the beginning of years ago that this trilogy that they're making is the origin story. He never said that the first one or the second film or Far From Home was the origin story. He said the trilogy as a whole. So I had a feeling that once the third one came along, somebody was gonna die. If Tony survived from Endgame, he would probably die in this film. So definitely May had to go. It sucks. But like James said, this was adapted from a comic book that was loosely based. And also this was the end of the trilogy that gave his origin story. So I felt like May had to go. It was heartbreaking, but it was definitely part of his story. Just like Toby and Tom said that she wasn't meant, she was meant to die because this was your story.
It's all really heartbreaking just watching everything being taken away from him. So we transition into Ned and MJ at Ned's grandma's place, and then they're talking. MJ is about to push the button, and Ned's like, I just wish Peter was here. And then that's where we get that little spark. It's like, oh shit, wait, Ned might actually be magic. And it was at this moment where it was just like, yep, this is the moment where we're going to see Toby and Andrew. This is going to be the moment, because he's like, all right, I can't remember exactly what he says, but show me Peter Parker or something like that, right? And then I saw the big eyes, right? That's the first thing that I saw. Was like, that's fucking Andrew, because he has the biggest eyes out of the 3 live action versions. And I love his suit, by the way. We saw him, he comes through the portal, takes his mask off, and my theater on Thursday night fucking erupted. During my screening today when Andrew showed up, this woman next to me was crying and sobbing her eyes out just seeing him there, right? So he comes through the portal and he has to prove himself that he's Peter Parker, right? I love that MJ just like throwing the rolls at him constantly.
Like, how's this not proof? I'm like, gravity. I'm like, he's literally sticking to the wall. That's proof enough.
It's like, yes, I have the tingle thing, but it doesn't work on rolls. It doesn't work on bread.
And then he said, crawl. I'm like, no. But then when the grandma asked, like, oh, okay, cool, I'll crawl. But it's because he still respect elders. Like, you still will listen to elders. And I find that beautiful. Like, no matter, because a teenage girl is telling you to crawl on a fucking ceiling. But when the grandma, the elder, sees it, I find that so beautiful. Like, hey, can you grab those cobwebs and everything like that? Like, yeah, sure, grandma.
And then
one thing, before you do that, did you notice all the callbacks, the foreshadowing of Ned having superpowers or having magic? Because first he says, he tells his grandma, he tells Doctor Strange, my grandma says we got magic. And I get these tingly things, and Doctor Strange says, see a physician.
See a physician.
And then there's another time when he has the ring on and he does the little handshake with Peter.
It's a
little spark happened then. And I was like, bro, I didn't pick this the first time, but the second time I saw the movie, I saw it both times. And I was like,
dude, movie structure, the moment he was like, oh, there's magic in my family. I was like, yep, Ned's getting magic at some point in this movie. it was going to happen.
So I try to see if there was, because they pan around his house, showing the knife, showing some type of architect of the family. So I was trying to see, like, is it connected to some characters from the MCU or from the comics, internals or something, but I couldn't spot anything to see, like, why does his family have such a magic? So did you guys spot anything to see if he's connected to any type of magic base to see, or was it just plot base?
Like a plot base.
Yeah, there wasn't anything.
Yeah, I'm about to say I feel like it's plot based.
Yeah, so he opens up the other portal. Toby comes through, and I love how their spider sense works. Right, like they can sense each other. He's instantly like, he's not your friend. And then I love that they kind of like do the exact same thing at each other because they're both Peter Parkers. I think it's essentially the same. So, Josh, I want to start with you. What did you think about that whole sequence of Andrew and Toby coming through the portals, their first interaction with each other? Like, what did you think?
I loved it so much. When I first saw the spark, I knew that that's what was happening as well. And I was super surprised and relieved. I mean, like being someone who like studies film structure and scripts and stuff, I knew it was like, if they're going to come into this movie, it's going to have to be like the end of act 2 or the beginning of act 3. And they did it like sort of like the middle to end of act 2. And it's like they had a full, like I think I timed it this third time watching it, but they had a full like 40 minutes in this film. And I'm just so glad that they were in it for that long. It felt amazing. And I just am also so glad that the world is recognizing how awesome Andrew Garfield is, because he's fucking great, man. He's my favorite Spider-Man. I can't help it. I just love him so much.
I knew I liked you, Josh.
Yeah.
He's my favorite.
He plays the role so freaking well. And you know, not to get too off track, but his the chemistry between him and Emma Stone is like so incredible. It's like they were falling in love in real life while they were filming that movie, and it's just like it feels like you're like a voyeur watching someone on a date for the first time, and it's just like it just works. The whole thing works for me, and I just was so glad to see him. Like that's when I teared up the most, when he walked through that portal. I'm like, I can't believe after 7 years he's finally back. After getting robbed out of his third movie, he's back. And not only that, the reception for him, like people are excited to see him, and they pretty much everyone thought that he did awesome in this movie, and I'm just so excited about it. And both of them, Toby did a great job too. I mean, Toby's the OG, obviously, and we love him so much. And he looked older than I expected because I just haven't seen him in a movie in such a long time. But he played the role so well. He got the best of of Garfield by webbing his web shooter, and Garfield was like, it's like he knew. It's like, oh, that's a smart thing to do. But
where does that come out from? Like, those it's amazing.
It was fantastic, and the fact that it was at Ned's house too, and like his Nana or whatever they called her was like so perfect too. It was just like, I don't know, it was great. That was just such a warm, awesome feeling. It was just like a big warm hug of a scene, you know.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Steve, what about you?
I loved so when that first happened, like when the portal opens, I like saw it and I was all like, man, is JB right? Are they just showing flashbacks from another? I was like, because when we talked, JB was like, they're not gonna be in the movie, bro. They're just gonna show like.
Damn, Steve, you didn't trust me. You didn't trust him.
So my biggest thing was I knew that they were gonna be in the movie because of the fact that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield did these movies, played Spider-Man 2014 to 2002 or whatever. Never have they been seen in public together. Somehow they got caught twice in the last 9 months.
There were a lot of leaks on Twitter too, like a lot of set photos, and then they all kind of came to fruition. And I was like, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, I was like, dude, how'd you guys get caught in public twice, but you guys haven't been seen together ever as Spider-Man? So that's how I kind of knew. But still, like there was this doubt in my mind thinking that they were only going to be like an end credit scene or something like that. Yeah. So, but when the portal opens, and then I was like, okay, JB might have been right. They're just going to show scenes.
Oh, if the portal just closed right away and that was all we got. Oh,
I thought if that happened, I would have literally fuck this shit. I'm out. I don't know. I'm good.
So what I thought originally was when Doctor Strange was doing the spell, that we would see them in like while the multiverse was tearing, right, and people were coming through, that we would just like get a glimpse of them, and that would be it, right? Yeah. To see how much they're in this film is amazing. Like
nobody thought that.
Absolutely touched
my heart. What do you mean
heart.
Tearing? When they were back in the dungeon, or when
they were in the dungeon? At the dungeon. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. When he was doing the spell and it kind of like shot out everywhere, I thought we would like see them in the tears, kind of like a Flash running through like the Speed Force type shit, where he would see different types of characters. I thought that would be it. And just like, oh shit, that's the connection to the universes. But the more that we got like all of the villains, like getting deeper characterizations from them and how they interacted with their individual Spider-Men, I was like, all right, they're definitely in the movie. And then it all came to fruition when they all came through the portal. I absolutely fucking loved it.
So as Andrew's running towards the screen, everybody in my movie theater, you can see people going, like, and then he jumps through, and they're like, yes, everybody's screaming. Everybody starts screaming and stuff. Like I said, Thursday, my movie theater went crazy. On Sunday, people were like, oh. I was like, what is that? I was like, okay, you guys had to see the movie already. That's the only thing I could think of. I was like, there's no way nobody is hyped like right now. But
about a good 5 people in my role on the Friday morning screening, we were all like that Leo scene. We're like, oh shit, it's him! Yes, it's fucking Andrew Garfield. Like just him running. Like I was more excited when Andrew came. And then when Toby came, I was like, "Oh shit, it's him! Cool."
Yeah, when Toby came, it was less anticlimactic because you already kind of knew after.
Yeah, you knew he was coming next.
Well, that and also I don't give 2 fucks about you know Toby coming out, but at the same time, it was dope myself. I'm like, "Oh, Toby, you know you're great."
He didn't come out in costume or anything. He just came out.
I thought that was perfect. Yeah,
you know, boy just came out as a youth pastor. You know, and just said like, "Hey, are you gonna go as a youth pastor? You know, dope youth pastor. You get your suit like." I always got it on. You know, I don't try to dress up and say I'm Peter out here. I'm like, he does got a point. So like, but to speak overall that scene, just with both of them coming out and then both of them shoot the webs and everything, and then MJ and Ned like questioning and like, hey, we need to find our Peter, but we can't find him. And then when both of them explain like where's their place, like where's their alone place, where's the place of when they speak up in depression, Empire State, and I forgot what was the other one.
The Chrysler Building.
Yeah, the Chrysler Building, and then like the Tom, he's still in high school, so it makes sense that his place is right now. It's technically high school. Mm-hmm. Like that's where his sanctum is kind of is. So I can't wait to find out in the next trilogy where is he gonna be, Empire State or the Chrysler or part of the Avengers Tower. So that'd be pretty interesting in his next trilogy of where his building is going to be.
Yeah, man. Yes. So I absolutely love that sequence. And then just like moving into Peter just in the rain, just staring at that huge like billboard of J. Jonah Jameson, just talking about everyone that gets into Spider-Man's life dies, right? He's just playing that moment with Aunt May and all of the other turmoil and everything that he's put everyone else through since he's been Spider-Man. He's reliving all of that stuff. And in that moment, and this was another moment that I definitely cried in the theater, was when Ned and MJ show up and they just hug him, right? Because they know that he's hurting and he's just crying his eyes out. And then we see Andrew and Toby, we see their silhouettes, and then they come down and each of them are just talking about their own different experiences because they know exactly what he's going through. Andrew talks about the fact that after he failed to save Gwen, he became rageful and bitter and he stopped pulling his punches. Like, who knows what he could have done to some of those villains, right? Like broken limbs. Who knows? Did he kill any of them? Like, there's so much that I want to know about what he went through after, because he talks about, I tried to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for Gwen, but then, you know, he became rageful and bitter. And Toby talks about tracking down the man that killed Uncle Ben, wanting to see him dead, and then getting his wish, and then telling him it doesn't fix anything, and you can choose a different path. So like that was some of my favorite stuff between the three, besides like just watching them in the lab, like working on science shit together, like figuring out the cures for each one. So Josh, I'm going to toss it to you. Like, what did you think about that scene of Toby and Andrew's Spider-Man, like talking to Tom, trying to talk him out of that rage that they can not only see in him, but they can feel it in their spider sense as well?
Yeah, it was perfect. And of course, I loved the Garfield stuff a little bit more just because he's just played it so well. And he's such a tragic character, which I think Spider-Man is a tragic character. And you can just see it in his eyes. And it adds to the realism because he lost Gwen and Emma Stone at kind of the same time, which is really interesting, you know? But it was a super sad scene, and it was fantastic. And they played like between that and the science lab too, which I liked too because I love the nerdy shit, but like they went back and forth between like being funny and then also like being very serious, you know, and letting him know how much tragedy they've had in their life too, because he's just like, you know, just like anybody is like, don't tell me that you know exactly how I feel, because no one does. But then you realize, oh, you two know exactly how you basically are me, you know, which is great. And again, it sets it up for the rest of the movie. I just think that this was such a well-written movie, better than it deserved to be for like a superhero movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's just fantastic.
Especially when he starts to say that, like, my Aunt May says that with great power, and just the look on Toby's face when he realizes that they've all been told the same thing, comes with great responsibility. And Tom's like, how did you know that? And then Andrew and Toby like, because that's what Uncle Ben told us. Like, Aunt May didn't die for nothing, right? Like, there's more after this. So powerful.
This was your origin story, and I just love about the lighting as well, that they're all in darkness except that one lighting is in Ned and MJ and then Tom behind them, showing that how right now Tom just isn't furious of rage, and all he thinks of dark thoughts, like you said, that he just wants to kill Goblin, that all he wants to do is revenge and hatred. But then that he's trying to get that little small light back because of MJ and Ned trying to bring Toby and Andrew with them and trying to bring their friend back, to understand that there's still love out there, there's still heart out there. So I just love that scene very much. And just to see Andrew and Toby version of Peter 1 and 3 talk to Peter 2, which by the way it gets fucking confusing throughout the end of the film, because at sometimes I forgot who the fuck was 2 and 3 and 1. But just to see that conversation of all three of them, and all of them understand that all of them had the similar origin story, all of them had to lose somebody to start their story, to start their movement. And like James said, when Toby said that like she wasn't meant, like that scene is so impactful. And the line, like, Toby knew that with great power comes with great responsibility. Once he said that, he knew, like, this is your story, my man. Like, from here on out, this is you. This is where you take your story where it goes. So it's just like Andrew and Toby just want to be there for this younger version, and like to be like brothers. It's fucking sad, man. Shit.
It's just Andrew, just for me, he just bodied that scene. Like, his emotion was like on a different level with him telling the story, and he's breaking down, he's crying and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dude, like, Andrew was just a really, really good actor. He wasn't just Spider-Man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it kind of showed like the different levels to me in that scene where they're all having this conversation and they're all having this emotional scene. It felt like the emotion from him just felt, to me at least, it just felt more draining. I was just like, yo, he's really, really killing this scene.
He's an incredible actor, dude. Incredible.
Yeah. He's like, man, I love it. I love Andrew Garfield. But
yes.
but like I was like, yo, he's really, really killing it. And then like even when Toby, like you said, he talks about Uncle Ben, and he's all like, I let that, you know, I hunted that killer down, and it didn't do anything. It didn't change anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, Uncle Ben, he's still gone. You know what I'm saying?
Bring Ben back, and he also realized that the person that's actually responsible for Ben's death wasn't even the one that he killed. So he didn't. He wasn't a part of like that guy wasn't innocent, but he also didn't murder Uncle Ben, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's all of that guilt that he has to deal with, you know.
Yeah.
So let's get to that scene. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, not to jump, but kind of transition to what they say. Andrew saying that his version that he lost, it was Gwen, and knowing that he saved MJ later in the film, and then knowing, with Toby, that he was with all that rage and he killed that person, but he wasn't the one that killed Uncle Ben, and then he's the one that helped Peter to not go over that edge as well. It's like all the stories are intertwined with one another to help each other save themselves from their own past mistakes as well. So I just love that too. Like, Andrew's character of his version of Peter had to redeem himself for failing to save Gwen, and he saved MJ. And then Peter of version of Toby had to help Tom to understand that all the rage is not going to get you where you want to be. And he had to stop him before he killed his version of Green Goblin, of Norman Osborn. So I just love that scene. Like, those transition, the storyline, the script was freaking great here.
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, like some of my favorite stuff was just like them working in the lab, like just figuring shit out. Like Andrew in like the lab coat, they're all working on shit together. Ned just like kind of rolls up in between them. So it's like, hey, do you guys have like a best friend in your universe? It's like Toby's like, yeah, he died in my arms after he tried to kill me. It was so tragic.
So tragic.
And he
So
was
good.
smart. He was smart to not ask the other Peter, because he'd be like, "Yeah, my best friend came back from being gone for a while, and he tried to kill me too. And then after that, he allows Gwen because of him." I'm like, "Oh, I'm glad he didn't ask it, because that would just be more depressing. Just hearing both, like to hearing both versions of Peter saying the same thing."
Yeah,
He's like,
I absolutely.
I won't become a supervillain.
Yeah, love
But
that
then now he
scene.
will, most likely, because he lost his memory, so he has a chance to become a supervillain.
Yeah,
I
I thought
mean-
it was super. Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say I thought it was super interesting. Like, I think they purposefully, it seemed to me, didn't mention the name Harry. Like Norman mentions that he has a son, and they
Mhm.
talk about their best friends. Garfield doesn't mention what happened to him, but like they never say the word Harry Osborn, and I wonder if that's
True.
because they're going to introduce a Harry later, and he's going to be the revelation of, oh, what's your last name? You know, at some point. I think that's going to be a big turn.
That's a good
I
point.
think so too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with Spider-Man after this.
Mhm.
But after this scene, they realize that they need to get all of the villains into one spot so that they can give them all of the different cures, and they choose the new Statue of Liberty. Peter calls into Jameson's web show so that everyone can see the news, see exactly where he is. And then like they all get there, and I love these like really great moments between the three of them. Like Andrew cracks Toby's back. Like these are some like really cool like callbacks to Toby's movies, like when he fall and he hurt his back. Like there's just so many like callbacks to that kind of stuff. So I love like just them like talking to each other and just having like banter back and forth, like them like asking him about like how does his webs work and all of that different stuff. Like I just absolutely loved all of that stuff before we get into like the big third act fight. So I kind of want to go around, like Josh, like what did you think about those scenes between the three Spider-Men before we get into the big third act battle?
Yeah, I'm just so glad that we have them. I mean, it could have easily, they could have been in the movie a lot less. And I'm just so glad we got so many different moments. We got action, we got emotion, we got comedy, we got like so much hangout time, like literally just hangout time. Like they're, like you said, they're cracking each other's backs. Like they just allowed us to spend time with these characters, which I really appreciate. They knew exactly what they want. And like literally they just checked off every box of what was going to make people happy, but in a way that still served the story and felt organic.
Mhm. First off, when Peter calls into the Daily Bugle web show, I don't know if it was just me or just the way the pandemic's been working and all the jokes that I've seen where people are in like these like web camera situations and then they stand up and they don't have pants on. But I thought I thought J. Jonah Jameson was going to stand up and just have on like boxers. I was like, please don't do that.
With little Spider-Man on him.
Yeah, I thought that
Probably.
was going to happen. Some Spider-Man underwear. I just really thought that was going to happen. I don't know why I thought that. It just really kept crossing my head. I was like, he's going to stand up. He's not going to have on bottoms. Watch. But like that whole sequence, I think the best part was like, he was all like, you fought an alien in space? And he was all like, yeah. He's all like, I'm still stuck on this in space. And he's like, I fought a Russian guy in a rhino costume.
Yeah.
He said, I'm lame. He's like, no. We need to go back into that. We need to work on your insecurities. You are amazing. And by the way, I love how they continue with the word amazing only to Andrew's spider version. So I love how they only say that to his words. And I just love how Toby's version is like the one that helps Andrew and Tom like to try to lift them up, because he's like, he tries to do better, like he tries to be better, and he tries to be a good example for his others variant versions of Peter Parker.
I think they were definitely breaking the fourth wall with that too.
Oh,
because for sure. Everybody always talks about the Spider-Man being the worst. So that was him just kind of like, I'm the lame one. I'm the, you know what I'm saying? And then Toby was like, no, you're amazing. Like, I thought that was pretty cool, like how they did that. And they kind of like broke the wall to like kind of talk to everybody. Like,
He needed to hear it, man.
Yeah,
like,
you
hey,
are amazing.
Because he loves the character as much as we do, and he was just he's always so excited and so proud. And I heard that as soon as he was done with this, he told Marvel and Sony, he's like, anytime you need me, please just let me know. I would be glad to come back, basically.
Yeah,
and who knows if they'll do it, but that'd be incredible.
They're like, oh, yeah,
I have no problem. Like, please come back. And plus, I just love how they did the meme twice. Back at the lab, and back at the Statue of Liberty. When Ned, like, come on, Ned, like, you're smart. Like, you guys say, hey, Peter. Huh? And they all start to like, yeah, which one? Peter Parker, like, we're all Peter Parker, like,
that's still me.
That's still me. So I just love how they all point at each other and they say, yo, Peter Computer. And then I just love how back at Statue of Liberty, they're like, okay, we're gonna, talk Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3, and they just point at each other again. So I just love how they like do the meme. Yeah. Like, these script writers knew the timeline, knew Reddit, knew what we wanted as fans. Like, yes, this is probably a whole type of end game stuff, like, just for the fans, but they did it so well that it's an entertaining film. So I feel
right after that, much out of it. Yeah, right after that scene too, when they sync up on the Statue of Liberty and then they like run off and jump off, and they're like syncing up and swinging off of each other's webs. That part,
yes, I saw that too. Awesome. That was dope.
I lost it.
Fuck yes, this felt like a comic moment that they going off each other. And then Tom, being the youngest one, he's saying, hey, I was part of the Avengers. He's like, yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
What are the Avengers?
What is that?
Are we in a band? You're in a band?
And how does this help us? And Tom's like, all right, cool. I'm not about to brag, but, as Avengers, Earth Mightiest Heroes. And he's like, okay, still, what does that help us? Like, all right, cool. Let's just work together. Let's communicate. Let's take one by one out. It's like, okay, this is teamwork, my man. Thank you.
He said, oh, so you make your own webs. He said, how does that work? He's like, it's like I'm breathing air. I just do it.
Yeah, I don't do breathing, Yeah.
No, the funniest one was originally when he says it in the lab, and Andrew Garfield says, so that comes out of and they kind of like cut it. But like, everybody knows, like, spider webs, those come out the rear.
Yeah.
So they come out of your, and they cut it right before he says it. He was gonna say come out of your ass. And I thought that was hilarious.
And plus, I love the callback as well. When Andrew, like, did you ever get like a block or something? He's like, yeah, it happened once, and it did happen back in Spider-Man 2 or 3, was it?
Yeah, existential crisis type thing.
Yeah, I just couldn't use this stuff like that. So I should love that callbacks again. It just goes along with it. And I'm curious to see if we ever see Toby's version again, if we ever see his daughter, because Toby said, I think to Doc, or I forgot to who, but he said that he started a family and everything. Stuff is complicated, but he has a family. So I'm curious to see that if we're ever going to see this version of Toby in the future again. If this,
I'll have to watch it again.
Happens. I feel like we're going to see, like, now I feel like they gave enough in that situation where they can give us more universe Spider-Man if they wanted to, because Andrew definitely says, like, yeah, that stuff is not in the cards for us guys. You know what I'm saying? And then he's like, actually, I'm married. So then Andrew's kind of like, well, shit. But then you think about it, Gwen Stacy's dead in this universe, but he hasn't met Mary Jane.
So in the deleted scenes in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, he did meet Mary Jane. Obviously, it's not canon, but it's like they could reintroduce like a Mary Jane back into the universe, and he could end up with Mary Jane or someone else. Like, I would love for them to do something different, like introduce Felicia Hardy, like let Andrew Spider-Man interact with like Black Cat and like investigate like the super soldier serum, or do something interesting. I think that'll be really cool. Yeah, it would fit
because of the fact that Andrew's universe is a little darker, so Black Cat would fit more. If I'm
not mistaken, I think they did introduce Felicia Hardy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, didn't they?
For like a second.
She's at Oscorp.
Yeah, but I think I think the name tag or something they show of her name, but I don't remember too much.
I'm pretty sure because God, I can't remember her name, but she's the lead actress in Rogue One. She was playing Felicia Hardy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so that's really cool. So let's dive into it. Let's get into the third act. I kind of want to go around and just like get you guys like favorite moments. So Josh, I want to start with you. Like, what were some of your favorite moments from this third act fight, like watching this 3 live action Spider-Man that we grew up with against their iconic villains.
Yeah, I gotta say, when they jump off and they're doing the web swing, I know it's like just seconds, but it's like so cool to see and to think about. Like, because at first when I saw it, I was like, I didn't really understand because it happens so fast. But when you're like really focusing on it and you're seeing like where they're pulling the webs and like swinging around each other, and like it's like so it's badass. And the syncing up and going at each villain one at a time, and then Doc Ock coming back and being sort of a savior point. And another part that I had to rewatch a couple times to see what happened is when the Green Goblin comes in and he throws all those bombs, but no one's hurt. At first I was like, what the hell just happened? But then if you really look close, it's like a split second, but you see Doc Ock's arms just like flicks them all away super quick. It was badass.
He grabs them all, yeah.
Yeah, it's dark and it moves quick, so you really got to kind of squint to see some of the thing. But it didn't honestly bother me. Like sometimes the MCU movies, like at the end of the movie, like just fall apart into like a huge, crazy CGI fest, you know. And you always have to have that because it's a comic movie. You want a lot of action, but like I think this really did a good job of like cutting it up and not having just like 20 minutes of nonstop what the hell is going on the screen kind of thing. So I thought it was paced super well. It's easy to follow. I mean, they're all the same color, but like you can still tell which one is which because of Toby's raised webbing and stuff, like, and the big eyes on and Andrew. There's enough to be able to focus and see who's doing what, because their voices are kind of similar too. I mean, it's like if you're really not paying attention, you're like, what the hell is going on? But like I think they did a really good job and it looked fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. It was great. It was fantastic. Yeah.
And but for correction, in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, they did have her, and she was a secretary for Norman Osborn, which became Harry Osborn.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Another thing that I don't think we pointed out, but I did like, Norman Osborn's Green Goblin has the purple hood on.
Correct.
Kind of gives that homage to Hobgoblin a little bit. So I like this fact that they did that instead of the mask. And you got the hood on, even though we do know that isn't it Harry that ends up being Hobgoblin, not Norman?
Well, Harry becomes another Green Goblin. Hobgoblin is played by a bunch of different people throughout the comics, but I forget who the actual main guy who becomes him, because even Ned becomes him at some point in the comics for a short time. But yeah, he a lot of people wear that mask, I think.
Yeah.
Steve's point, like, it was dope to see the whole purple hoodie, because it's nice to see the green outfit but then the purple hoodie on top, even though it does look like a homeless person just being dressed up as a guy on a whole glider. I'm like, somehow it just made like anybody with some type of homeless outfit could literally dress as Comic-Con like him like now. Like that just makes it dope.
Yeah,
it looks great.
I thought that was cool, but in that scene, the final scene or whatever, just them, them interacting with each other, them fighting. And then, like, realizing that they didn't have it together and they had to regroup. And I think that was our regroup moment where they get their ass kicked the first time and then they come back and do a science experiment. I think that was their regrouping moment where they regrouped and they was like, all right, so I'm usually working as a solo project, so you guys got to help me out. And they had that whole conversation. And then they decide to focus on just one villain at a time. I thought that was really cool. Them just really coming together and figuring that out on who they wanted to take out first. And then even Andrew Garfield, when he webs up Lizard, he's like, wait your turn. He's like, and like I just thought all that stuff was like really cool how they handled that.
That was one of the things that I really love about Andrew's Peter / Spider-Man is just like he is the super quippy version, and that's the Peter that I love. Like Andrew's such an amazing Spider-Man, no pun intended. He's just so good, man.
It's just that scene with Andrew, the way he just kept going around and then all of them working together. Like they took down Electro, Sandman, and plus the Lizard, all working together one by one, and then actually understanding each other. Like, hey, let's go step by step. And like, even though all of them were struggling the first time to take out Sandman, but they got the groove, they got the mojo, and then after that they took down Lizard, and then after they took down Electro, I just found it so smooth. And I agree with James here. Like Andrew was just smooth with his quips, and it was just see him with the fight with the Lizard. I wish it lasted a bit more because I actually wanted to see more of these quips and see him going around, and to see that fight with Green Goblin, I want him to see at least one round with Green Goblin because Andrew did not have one chance to go against Green Goblin, Norman Osborn.
Yeah, man. Like, there's so much to talk about in this third act fight. Just like you guys already alluded to, them just swinging together, coordinating their attacks, like picking one target to go after at once. Like, I love when they turned Flint back. It was pretty much like the reverse image of him being transformed into Sandman, him looking at his hand.
Yeah, it was exact
reverse,
reused footage from the movie, actually, which I
it
heard.
was?
Right.
Yeah, that, and when he looks out of the Statue of Liberty, like everything that you see of him and the lizard when he turns back, it's all reused B footage from those movies. They weren't actually there to film it, just their voices, which is interesting. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I love that they take them all out with science, right? I love that Doc Ock comes in, fakes out Electro, and then like pulls the arc reactor off of him and replaces it so that the device, zaps away all of his energy. So I wanted to ask you guys a question real quick. Do you think that Doc Ock took the arc reactor back to his universe? We never see him give it to Peter. Ooh. We never see him give it to Doctor Strange. We just see him fade away, and but he was still holding it. The power of the sun in the palm of my hand. Does he take it?
Seems like he might. Maybe he'll use it for good though, because he doesn't have any of that evil. But I just feel like you got to figure out that chip thing in general, like get it out of there. The fact that that's a possibility to turn evil again, like I don't know. It seems like a recipe for disaster.
Right.
What JB is saying is just proof that I think, like they said, that they're possibly going to try to do different Universal Spider-Mans as like one last Spider-Man's for them. That right there, the power of the sun in my hands, he fades away with it. There's your villain.
Yeah,
right. Like it just you just set it up right there. JB needs to be writing for Marvel right at this point.
It was right after that line. He saw Toby first time, like, "Hey, it's you." Like, "Oh, you age." Like,
so good to see you, my boy.
And then he
said, that took me back.
How you doing? He said,
"Yeah,
I'm doing better. I could do better." Like just seeing that, like both of them, like two grown men talking, like just seeing that, like he probably got zipped out from like year 2021 or 2023, but to see that they're both almost at the same age now and everything, like just seeing that, it's just so damn beautiful.
Yeah, man, so many great moments. Like there was one moment that I absolutely cried serious tears for that I thought was going to be absolute shit. So Vash and dozens, hundreds of people on the internet were all, wouldn't it be awesome if Andrew got redemption for not being able to save Gwen, and he saves MJ. And I told Vash the moment he said it, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've heard. I think it would be so fucking lame.
Josh, I heard that for 3 weeks straight. I heard it for 3 weeks straight in every show I was on. He said, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Like, yo, it will. It makes sense for story and structure.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't going to happen. What I said was, if it does happen, I think it would be lame as fuck, because for me, in the past 2 movies, there's always been someone else to clean up Peter's mess. And Andrew doing that puts him in another position where someone else cleans up his mess. But in the context of the film, going through it, again, listening to the conversations between the villains, the conversations between Toby and Andrew and Tom, Spider-Man, on the roof above his high school, watching that all come together, watching the regret, especially the way that Andrew's Spider-Man was looking at Tom and MJ in the lab. Like, it just, all of these moments is like, you know what? It really comes to fruition in this moment, and it works perfectly. I cried my fucking eyes out when it happened, when he lands, and this is the moment where you could tell that this moment was playing through his head for years after it happened. Instead of shooting the web, propel my body forward to catch her, and then use my body as the shield since he was enhanced, right? So when he catches MJ, and he just lands, and he can't let her go, and he's just staring at her, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Are you okay?" And it's like, dude, I bawled tears, bro. It was such an incredible.
His face changes so much during that. Like it goes through so many different emotions. Like,
on stream right now.
It's an incredible piece of acting that he does. It just pulls it off perfectly. And you're right. Like, he suffered so much in the earlier parts of this movie that he deserves a break. Like, we don't want to see MJ die in that way, and we want to see him get that Garfield get that redemption. And so I think it did work perfectly too.
Yeah. Like I like that scene just in general. He kind of like his voice even cracks as he's talking. It's like, bro, he's really feeling this. Like
Yeah.
that was a really good scene. Um,
It's
and
like
then well, go ahead.
I, I was gonna say, like, it's just it's so good and it's so beautiful when he acts like, "Are you okay?" to the person he saved, and he's like, "Yeah," and the MJ sees his face, they're like, "Boy, you're more emotional than me. I'm the one that's about to die, but you count me. Why are you crying?" But the scene did not need no words. It just needed 3 words. "Are you okay?" And then him just like, "Yeah." But us, the audience, knows what happened and what he has gone through as a hero. So all he need, like those emotions in the back of his head, like James says, just knowing that he found a better way to save. He found a much better. He jumped. He didn't think. He just went through it. Just me just thinking about it. James just got me a fucking
Yeah,
goddamn
man.
emotion. Like, like,
Especially
damn.
especially when you think back, like when they're all sharing their losses, and Andrew's like, I lost my Gwen, right? And it's
Yeah.
just like, bro, I'm dying. I can't take this right now. It's too much. And dude, again, Andrew is such an incredible actor. You can see he's legitimately about to break down in this moment. It's just great acting all around from everyone. Lizard, chases MJ and Ned through the lab. That was a great callback to the Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man, where
Yeah.
he's fighting Spider-Man in a classroom lab type thing. Like so many amazing callbacks.
Yeah, it's exactly like the movie too, because he like runs in and then Spider-Man like kicks him into the wall and then he scurries away.
Yeah.
That's like, very similar to that scene.
Yeah, because like I had a feeling Tom was not going to save her because I'm like, oh, Tom is going to. But then once he literally got taken away by your guy, I'm like, you son of a bitch. And then I'm like, all right, cool. It has to be Andrew. He jumped down and got her. I'm like, like yes, yes. I'm happy I was right for the past weeks and months that I said it because of the trailer, but to actually see it in the context clues of everything behind it, it's just a whole emotional aspect. It's just him actually, I was getting that scene of him being just breaking down. It just got me more emotional. It's like, damn, like, can we just get like a cartoon or comic or like a whole TV show of Andrew, man? I just want more of Andrew, man. Just give him a movie.
Just give him a third movie, round out the trilogy, and then fucking end it.
I think he's coming
give
back.
Him 3, 4, 5. I don't care. Just give him more Andrew. Toby, I don't give a fuck. Just give more Andrew, man.
I think we'll talk about this with the deleted scene stuff, but I'm a little afraid of what that might mean. But we can talk about that at the end.
I'm so William Dafoe obviously I feel like stole the show.
Every scene he was in, bro.
He killed it. Yeah.
After that, Andrew Garfield was number 2. Yeah. Like he was right after.
And honestly, Holland too, like he stepped up and he did some incredible acting in this movie too.
Yeah, let's talk about that, right? So they cure everyone. They all fall onto the shield from the Statue of Liberty, and just the way that Tom is looking at Green Goblin with all of that rage, all of that anger, he gets into position. And they're fighting, and he's not pulling any of his punches, right? Mm-hmm. Just going back to what Andrew was saying, like where he stopped pulling his punches because of that rage. And when he grabbed that glider, it was just like, man, he's about to do something that he's going to regret for the rest of his life. And Andrew and Toby just look at each other, and they know what they have to do. And Toby just jumps in, grabs the glider. He doesn't have to say anything. It's just the look between them like, yo, no, this is wrong. This is not what we do. We save. We don't kill. It's such an incredible moment. So incredible, man. Like, what did you guys think?
And plus it shows, like, I love how they showed the first punch that he missed and it hit the shield and it showed the dent. Like, that showed us, the audience, that he was not pulling his punches no more, because when he used to punch the wall and other places, you would not see much of a dent. But this time on a Captain America shield that's probably made of bronze, metal, or probably gold out here in the shield, it showed this dent. It showed that, okay, this Tom right now is about to kill this Green Goblin. And it shows that, like, Tom was just in furious rage. Again, I asked myself, where did he have to tap himself in what memories? Did he lose a dog? Did he lose an uncle back then or something for him to tap in this emotional aspect of himself in this scene because
Tom Holland's an incredible actor, dude. Watch,
really is.
watch The Devil All the Time. Like, check out his other films. Like, this dude has incredible range.
Yeah, he's incredible. And you know, the scene of the donut shop, which we'll get to, is just like the amount of emotion that you can show without saying anything. It's just a little subtle changes in your face. Like, that's just incredible acting. It's very, very good. Yeah.
When he's hitting him or whatever, and he's punching him, so like I think on the third kick or whatever, he kicks the knife or the sword away from the goblin, like out of his little thing, and you hear it like ding, and it kind of goes across the middle. So as him and Tobey Maguire are holding the glider and they're staring at each other, if you pay it, like on my third watch, it took me to third watch, you can hear Green Goblin moving around to find the knife. You can hear him scrambling. Like, he's like, I gotta find that shit. Like, and then when he does, he stabs Tobey Maguire. And when he stabs Tobey Maguire, I was thinking that this is like the goodbye to Tobey Maguire's Peter
Me
Parker.
too. I was like, oh shit, he died here. He died.
Yeah, I was all like, oh man. Because I saw some fan-made stuff where like Tom and Andrew are standing with MJ and then Toby is actually dead. So I was like, oh snap, is this real? Like, you know what I'm saying? But
I wonder if on some of the test screenings or some of the ideas that they were going to kill him, and they're like, there's too much fucking sadness that's coming after this. We can't just have too much of it, you know? But my one problem with that is like, that's one of the bigger plot holes for me is like, even just a little sound effect or a little bit of a camera distortion to like show us that he had for a split second his spidey sense. Cause for me, there's no spidey sense in Toby. He just gets stabbed in the back without any warning. And that's, to me, I just wanted just a little bit of something that was just like,
That's
for a
fair.
second, like, you know,
Like, yeah, why didn't he sense it?
but he was
That's
super
fair.
focused, and maybe he sensed it and he knew that it was more important to stop him from doing that thing. I just
my
wish we would have
guess.
got a little bit of a sound effect.
So
you know?
Josh, so that's my counter for that, because I felt like he was so focused to stop him, like just speak with his eyes, like you said. So I felt like he was like, he knew he was gonna get stabbed, because once he felt that he got stabbed, he's like, he can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
But the most fun, like when he told Angela, like, I've been stabbed before, and then when he said like, but I'm in a lot of pain right now. A lot of pain.
He's like, you're in a lot of pain, aren't you? He's like, hell yeah.
Yep. This shit hurts as fuck. So like, I feel like in this movie, it made me love Toby what I didn't see in other films before, and what the other fan and audience loves Toby for what he was or is for them. Like, I love Toby in this film the most. I rewatched the first film. I did not care for Toby. I fell asleep a bit during that film too. But for this, I actually care for Toby. I actually like his character. I like his persona a lot more.
Yeah, I liked his choices, his like kind of quiet stoicism. Like I think that's why he didn't have the stand-up performance, but I think it really worked for his like older age, like wiser character.
Yeah, this is a guy that's been Spider-Man for at least over 20 years. Like, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, that's my assumption from when he's has been there, and his suit still looks the same. So like, I guess he doesn't need to knit too much, because he looks like he has the same suit for the past 20 years.
If it's not broke, don't fix it, man. Use the same design. But I just love all of these moments where Tom Holland's Spider-Man is just learning more and more what it means to be a hero, to even up to the point where Doctor Strange, he pops back in. And he just wants to push the button, but then he's realizing that Peter's plan actually worked. He was able to save them all. And then Doctor Strange he's trying to keep the multiverse from tearing. And something that we didn't even talk about in the beginning, when he puts the spell into a prism, very, very reminiscent of what he does in What If, where he has to put, spoilers for What If, where he has to put Killmonger and Zemo. No, and what was his name? Shit. I am blanking on his name right now. Chat, you guys will tell me. But he locks them in the prism. So I thought that was a really cool like callback to that. But he was being controlled by the other AI from Winter Soldier. Why can't I remember? He's German. Well, he's Swiss, actually. But anyways, so we get to the moment where he's talking to Doctor Strange, and he tells Doctor Strange, what if you use a spell to make everyone forget, right? Taking that responsibility, using that responsibility that he has, and then just telling Doctor Strange, you know what, just make everyone forget me. If that's going to fix the world, that's what we need to do. Making the ultimate sacrifice, losing his girlfriend, his best friend, after losing so many other important people. Yes, Arnim Zola. Thank you. I have no idea why my brain was blanking on Zola's name, but I thought. Yeah, I mean he was controlling Ultron's body,
with the body whipping the body.
Right. So I love that scene, and Benedict Cumberbatch's acting. I mean, the dude's just so good. But the people that love you, your friends, won't remember who you are. Like, this is just such a huge moment for Peter as a character to sacrifice everything to save the universe. Real quick, Vash. So when the multiverse is tearing apart, the first silhouette that we see, I was like, that's fucking Kraven the Hunter. I don't care what anyone says. That's Kraven. That guy with the spear, that's Kraven. That's Scorpion. We see the real version of Rhino from the comics. I'm like, dude, this is insane. So I can't wait to see what the live action Kraven movie is gonna be like. Like, it's gonna be all crazy. But
please, Marvel, gives us an MCU what if of this movie, because I can't wait to see what the fuck y'all do with this what if. Because y'all will have
a real Rhino, not that. I don't know what the fuck that was.
That's why they gave us that one silhouette. We know we don't know, but at some point I'm hoping we get like the real version of Rhino that actually looks like that silhouette. But Josh, like, what did you think about Peter making the choice to make the ultimate sacrifice to make sure that everyone forgets him in order to save, his universe?
Yeah, I really think this is when he becomes the real Spider-Man that I consider to be Spider-Man. I don't think he's been that point until this movie. Honestly, maybe it happened like right when he's standing in front of that big electric sign after Aunt May died. I think that's the beginning of his transition, but certainly by the very end and the very last scene, like he has fully embodied what Spider-Man is. And it's amazing to finally see. And I hope that we get so many more movies with him in that actual role. And it was super sad, like, especially when he goes back and he has that conversation with Zendaya about them forgetting. Like, that's probably the scene where I cried the most, because it was just like so sad, and she played it super well. She's like, no, I don't want this. I don't want you to do that. It was just heartbreaking, man. And then him and Ned do that special handshake shit, and it's like, and then everybody disappears. It's fucking sad.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah, and then it goes into the donut scene where it gets even more sad. You're like, this is just turning the screw in your heart.
Yeah, because he's practicing this speech. Like, I love that callback to when he's talking to the dean or whoever she is that's on the board. When he's talking to her, she's like, "You didn't rehearse this, did you?" So it's like he's taking that, he's rehearsed it, he's written it down, but he's in there. He sees that they got their acceptance letters to MIT. They're sharing those stale donuts, and then he sees the cut on MJ's head, and he's like, you know what? I don't want her to be hurt ever again. I'm just gonna leave it alone at this moment. And like you said, Josh, like, just all of that acting that he's doing without saying any words, just looking at her, everything that he's feeling, everything that he's thinking, and then he just leaves. It's such an incredible scene.
That was a true Peter Parker decision for him to make. Yes. And I don't think that Tom Holland in an earlier movie would have made that same decision.
The most important dialogue that I remember was the Zendaya part where he says, when she says, "I love you," and then when he's about to say it, she said, "Don't tell me, later on, so I know it's real." You know what I'm saying? So maybe it'll smack me, you know what I'm saying, and make me come back to reality or whatever. And honestly and truthfully, her saying that made you remember, like, did she love you? Because they were like, did she love you for you, or did she love you because you're Spider-Man? Her saying that part, I think that was she loved him because he was Peter Parker.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
I never had a doubt about their love.
Yeah, for sure.
And like this scene of him not telling her, like Josh said, like, he has done this in the cartoons. He has done this in the comics. He literally has Spider-Man left MJ, Gwen Stacy, and Black Cat because he doesn't want any of them to get hurt. He'd rather put this whole great power with great responsibility as a solo person. He has gone this and with this by himself more of the time because he doesn't want others to get hurt.
Toby did it in Spider-Man 1.
Same.
So left Mary Jane at the grave site.
Yeah, they kissed and then left. I literally saw that scene, and then she's like, "Wait, they're the same kiss that Spider-Man kissed me back in the water. I'm like, girl, you had a boyfriend. You still kiss a random dude that should save you. Still have questions about that scene, but it's just very similar and it stays to the Spider-Man storyline, to the lore. So I just love that, which is still sad as fuck. But I still get with Steven, like I get it. You took around the whole world. Nobody knows who Peter Parker is, but can you put a little substitute, a little say, except Mary Jane, Happy, and Ned, or like, can you do the same
Well,
thing?
no, I mean that was the thing, right? Like he it had to be that the entire world forgets who he is in order to perfectly reverse the spell. It had to go back to its original state in order for it to work. Just the fact that he was willing to do that, it's such a huge sacrifice, man. Like he gave up everything to save the world, right? Like now there's no record of him anywhere. I love that when we get that scene with him in his apartment, he has a box with like a GED study book in there, because there is no record of him anywhere. So he needs a GED so that he can apply to colleges and move on with his life. And one of my favorite moments from that ending is just him looking at the police scanner. We can see the sewing machine that he put together, the new suit that's like more reminiscent to the other Peters that he met, the Palpatine Lego figure that was like the first introduction to Ned and Peter's relationship in Homecoming. So, you know, that's something really important to him. And he also kept that coffee cup that MJ gave him, you know, that we're here to serve, or whatever it says. So it's just all of these amazing Spider-Man moments. And this is the moment.
And also to add to what Steve said, like there's no Kingpin type of reference. I feel like if you put the Christmas tree, the winter, and also the Rogers musical, and what's gonna happen next week with Kingpin and Hawkeye, so I feel like that's showing like the whole Kingpin type of atmosphere. Even though we didn't see no actual reference of him, but we saw the whole Rockefeller Center, and we know that his tower is actually a couple blocks away from there. So we like that's what I felt. His reference came in there.
I mean, I don't know. That might be a stretch. Like that doesn't tell us
it could be a stretch.
That Kingpin's gonna come in, because they're all in New York, right? Like that's all it means. We're in New York at Christmas. It doesn't mean anything else. But one thing that is interesting is that I do think that Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home do line up in terms of their timelines. Like
I think I heard that Hawkeye takes place right after this movie, is what I saw. Yeah,
because right at the beginning of the movie, we see a billboard that's advertising, you know, Rogers the musical, and then by the time we get to the ending, that's Christmas. I'm pretty sure I'm just speculating, but I'm pretty sure it's taking place around the same time that it's happening. So it's very interesting.
Hawkeye's supposed to be like 2024 or something like that.
No, Hawkeye's Christmas 2025.
It's 2024, because if you go back to episode 5 of Hawkeye, there's an invitation that Kate has, and it says the party's date December 24, 2024. Go back.
So then what is the first film? I mean, the first episode of Hawkeye says 2025.
It does?
Yeah.
No, so they remember it. It was a sign that says 2025 in the
that was a set photo.
Yeah,
that's not in the show.
They cover it up. Yeah, they cover it up in the show.
Yeah, it's not in the show.
Yeah.
So it's the invitation says December 24, 2024. Go back and look.
But if it's 2024, how do we know that this Spider-Man is?
But with this movie, this is Christmas 2023. So this is still.
I mean, but how do we know that? Like, how do we know exactly what the date is in No Way Home? There's nothing in this movie that shows like what date it is or what year it is.
Because this was the beginning of senior year, so that means they still have not started the new year of aka 2024. So like this is still from the summer of 2023 to the fall of 2023. So like this is still.
I don't know. I don't think that's the case, but we can definitely like research it after the pod and like come to that. Chat, let us know what you guys think as well.
How do y'all feel about the timelines? Chat, tell us.
Yeah, but the ending was just really sad, but yet amazing at the same time, because again, we got to see Spider-Man like swinging around the city in the classic suit, and he's going to do what he needs to do, right? And then we get the credits, and then we get into the mid-credit scene, right? And I absolutely love this. I love this little like Venom little Easter egg. He's talking to the bartender
Oh, you
in
guys are
Mexico.
gonna hate my opinion on this.
Oh no! So so he's like, you're telling me that this world is just filled with super people just walking around.
There's a man in an iron suit.
So I mean, I love that he was pretty much around in this universe just to introduce the Venom symbiote into Earth 616. I love that because he's gonna go back. He can do everything that he wants, and the MCU can have their own Venom that has nothing to do with that. Now the question is, do they introduce Harry Osborn and make him Venom? Do they make Flash Thompson Venom? Like, where do they go with that?
Venom?
Do they make Ned Venom? I don't think they will because they're going more the magic route with him. I think it would be more interesting if they make Flash Venom, someone that idolized.
I don't like that either.
I hate that Flash, dude.
But he idolizes Spider-Man so much, and like for him to have his own power like Spider-Man, I think would be kind of compelling to watch those two kind of play off of each other. But
the Scorpion guy gets the Venom at some point in the comics too, and I think that would be really cool because they've been setting up, I forget the actor's name, him as Scorpion, and I think he's such a cool, scary looking actor. And I think it would be cool at least to start out, like maybe even like Jameson like creates Scorpion or gives this guy the outfit to become Scorpion or the capital to do it, to like really lay up to him, and that maybe that's the first half
happens in the comics.
Yeah, and then maybe that's the first half of the film, and then maybe he finds the because I think he'd be a badass as Venom. What I want as Venom is like a really formidable, awesome villain, and that's why for me the
Flash is not going to be a good one.
No, but I also think the that post-credit scene was like the cherry on the top of the cake for me, because I was so afraid that Tom Hardy's Venom was going to have anything to do with the MCU, because I just personally cannot fucking stand that character or the movies. I can't stand it.
Really?
I don't like it either.
And so like there's no way he can be a villain either, because that weird symbiote voice where they're joking around with each other, it's like, how is he going to be a villain that we care about or is scary or is interesting to me? It's just like, I don't know. None of that
he's not a villain at all. Like he's a hero in his universe.
None of that stuff worked for me at all. I honestly thought the last one was like one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh man, really? Venom 2? Really?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Man.
I know. But that's why it's kind of like a monkey paw situation for me. It's like, I've wanted for 7 years an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but what if it means that it's going to be him and Tom Hardy's Venom? I'm like, do I even want it at that point? I don't know. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of people don't feel that way, but I just can't. So I wanted to like the movies. I love Venom I wanted Venom as a character. I just love him, and it's just like, none of it works for me at all.
I love it. It's just those movies have issues, right? The first Venom movie, the first 40 minutes to me, unwatchable. So whenever I put on Venom, I skip the first 40 minutes and I only watch from that to the end. And even then, it's a fine movie. Venom 2, I knew what I was getting myself into. I know Woody Harrelson would just chew up the fucking scenery as Carnage. That's exactly what I wanted. That's exactly what we got. And it's fine. Like, I had fun with it. They're not like movies I would like recommend, like, oh, these are some of the best comic book movies you can watch. I would never do that, but they're fine, you know?
They're fine. I wish that he would just finish your trilogy. People that like him can finish them, but don't have anything to do with Spider-Man, because they don't already, and it wouldn't make sense for them to later. And it's like, I think that, I don't know. And I don't want to yuck anybody's yum here, but if you watch the 90s cartoon, that iteration of Venom where he's just like, he doesn't trip Spider-Man's spider sense at all, and he's just everywhere, and he's like so powerful, and so like Spider-Man does not know how to handle it, and I just want to see that done properly in a live action movie. They need to, honestly, it needs to take a whole trilogy with the whole symbiote thing, honestly, to do it correctly.
Exactly. That's
at least problem. At least two movies.
You're trying to do all of Venom in 90 minutes. It's not possible. You can't do it.
It's impossible.
Ooh, maybe the next one is would be the Scorpion, and he has the black suit, and then the second movie after that in the trilogy, they can introduce, turning the black suit into an actual Venom character. Who knows?
Yeah, there's so much to speculate, so much to love, but like, any other thoughts on the mid credit scene before we wrap up with final thoughts on the movie?
Not really. For a part of me was trying to figure out how did Venom know who Peter Parker was.
So it's,
but
it's
I
the
mean,
hive mind thing. So all of the
yeah,
symbiotes are connected. So
Correct.
when he came into this universe, he got connected to the hive mind of all of the symbiotes in
Venom.
616, and one of them, I guess, knows who Peter Parker is. So
And
I
that's what
can't
I was
wait to see
thinking.
how they explain that.
Yeah,
I
because
think that's what it is. When Venom left and disappeared, and that one little piece stayed behind, that's the one piece that was still like new Peter Parker, and everything else kind of like vanished.
And I think the Venom, the symbiote itself, was like, you go back, but I think he left a piece of it, like the actual symbiote was like, I'm gonna stay in this universe for a little bit too and play around, you know.
Yeah,
That's what I think
yeah,
too.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because that's what I felt like the Tobey Maguire film of Spider-Man 3, there's a hive mind that of that symbiote knew that Peter. So like in the multiverse of madness, like overall, somehow it came from Tom Hardy. So it just made sense. Like what James said, that's why I felt like it came all to the same thing.
Steve, I have to say this, like the fact that you feel the same way about Andrew Garfield and the Venom movies, I think we're now best friends.
Well, I
don't meet too many people that feel that way.
The next day after
they're
seeing
okay.
Spider-Man,
They're fun.
Like Friday after seeing Spider-Man, I was like, all right, let me go ahead and watch Venom 2. And I was like 20 minutes in, and I was like, well, fuck this.
I know. I can't. I wanted to, my friend and I went just to like, we were gonna watch a movie that is probably bad but fun bad, but I didn't even have any fun with that. I was like, I just don't like this, because Carnage is like my favorite comic book villain of all time, and I'm just like,
Same.
it just feels like when it's disconnected from Spider-Man, it just feels like such a waste of material to me.
That's
you know?
fair.
Understandable. That's fair.
Like I got to see like Woody
because you see
really go as Carnage. Oh,
yes.
shit.
I'm a big
Okay.
fan. I'm a big fan of Venom as well. So
I love
like,
Venom, yeah.
Huge Venom fan.
There's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere.
Oh man, I want to see Donald. I want to see Donald Glover as a Prowler in this new trilogy. So
oh my
bad.
God, yes.
Right.
Well, see,
And plus-
Perfect
so then
casting, man.
And plus,
he said,
if you ever
he's
have your
looking.
best friend and that goes to the government, make sure that he knows how to keep his mouth quiet, because Ned just spills the whole beans just because he said like, yo,
I mean,
I
he's just
get
a
it.
kid.
He's
just
but
a
hey, he
kid.
literally said like, we hack into Sue, we go, rob the banks, he literally spilled the whole bean. So I'm like, I gotta make sure Sam stays quiet if he ever gets caught in trouble.
But Donald Glover does call and he says, I don't know if I'm gonna make it home, Miles. Like that confirms.
Yeah, he's like,
Miles-
I have a nephew in this neighborhood. Yeah. And he's
Yeah,
also looking in that van at all the different weapons, and he says something about the gravity claws or something like that. He's like, I and the claws. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
take them.
Yes.
he definitely called, and he definitely says Miles's name on the phone. So that
Oh, if we get him working
That
with
Miles-
Wilson Fisk in the next trilogy, that would be fucking dope.
Bruh.
Dude, what? I would lose it.
so
Yeah, so let's hit final thoughts. Josh, let me get your final
This is
thoughts
like, what is
on
this, 4
Spider-Man No
hours?
Way Home. Just over 2.5.
It's about to hit the 3 right now.
That's incredible. So, I mean, like, I think it's no mystery that I absolutely love this movie. It's like one of my, I have to let it sit because it's so new. Even though I've seen it 3 times now, I don't know where it sits in like the tier of Spider-Man, because The Amazing Spider-Man is my favorite Spider-Man movie, live action Spider-Man movie at the moment. But this one, it gives me so much, and it is all fan service. So it's like not even really fair to say it, but it is the one that I enjoyed the most. And I don't know that I'll ever have a movie theater experience like I had Thursday night seeing this movie. Like so many emotions. This is my end game, and this is like a combination of 20 years of my favorite character coming together, a redemption of a character that I loved that didn't get as much love as I thought he should have at the time. And so like, it was the perfect storm of events, and I just fucking love this movie. It is a perfect 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, what are your final thoughts?
10 and 10, easily. For me. This is my favorite Spider-Man so far. That's not Into the Spider-Verse. I need to do a real ranking. Good Lord.
Oh,
I need to do
nice.
a real ranking of all.
Right here, signed
all
by
of
Stan
the,
Lee.
Hell yeah.
I need a real ranking of all the Marvel movies, but it's definitely in my top 5 already. I
Yeah.
would put it higher possibly because I say Infinity War and Winter Soldier, and then now we're having a conversation about Spider-Man right there. It's right in there for me. Like, but yeah, like even like with kind of like having my thoughts of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire come, and that just was enough for me. Like I was just all in, hooked. And I was like, and then just the storyline, everything, the sad dramatics and everything that happens with Aunt May, when we get Andrew Garfield talking about Gwen Stacy, Tobey Maguire talking about Uncle Ben. This just was a great movie. William Dafoe obviously stole the show, and just the performances in general. Overall performances were just great. I thought this was really good, and then we're about to finally get college Peter Parker, and it seems like we're gonna get it done right. So I'm excited to see that because he signed on for 3 more. So let's go.
Curious who's going to direct that, because I think what Watts is going to Fantastic Four, so I'm curious if they'll get another director for the trilogy, and I hope they have a cohesive idea and they don't pull Star Wars.
Ooh, man.
Of like every movie, like what's going to happen now? It's like, you should probably plan it out ahead of time.
Yeah. Kathleen Kennedy really botched it with that one. But Vash, what are your final thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home?
Man, from you see from the poster or painting, whatever, I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. This film is literally fulfilled my Spider-Man dreams. Like, I'm one of those people that don't think Tobey is the best portrayed, but he is still entertaining overall. Andrew's still my favorite. Tom is close second, and Tobey is definitely third. Where does it sit in my MCU rankings? This is definitely my top 5. I haven't finished my binge of the rewatch of my Spider-Man film, so once I'm done, I'll give my update list probably in the next C4SVillains, or you'll see a post on the Twitter side to see my update ranking. But definitely this is in my top 3 of the Spider-Man, definitely with the Into Spider-Verse and this film, and then the first Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. Like, this film hit all the spots. Is like, this was the end of his origin story, and I had the patience at the time, and I knew what Kevin Feige meant and what he wanted. He's a man that likes to tell a story. He likes to build to what is the ultimative story, aka from the first Avengers to Thanos and where Endgame is. And that's where we are now with the first trilogy of Spider-Man. We build his character, we build that he was a big fan of Tony, and now he lost Tony, he lost everyone, he lost his girlfriend, he lost anything that attachment. Now he's going to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So I can't wait to see more of that, and I can't wait to see the trilogy whenever we're going to see in 2024.
Yeah, man, I absolutely love this movie. I have this at my 4th favorite MCU movie of all time, right under Winter Soldier, Endgame, and Infinity War. I think this film does everything it set out to do. It caps off this Spider-Man trilogy. It leads us into a Peter Parker / Spider-Man that's closer to what we know in the comics. Like, I've seen a lot of criticisms, but that's just how the MCU works. The MCU takes time to naturally progress all of these characters. Like, people don't change overnight. Like, this isn't a comic, right? Like, you can't expect someone to just be in one movie and by the next movie they're completely different or the character that you expected to see. I love that the MCU takes their time to build all of these characters. There's some characters that we didn't get full development on until like 10 years after their first appearance, right? Like, much like Hawkeye, we're getting so much more into that character, and like his time is like at Ronin, as Ronin and all that different stuff. So I had no problem with them taking their time. I love that this trilogy served as an origin story. Seeing Charlie Cox was amazing, knowing that he's in the universe. I can't wait to see that. Can't wait to see him more in the universe. Seeing Tobey and Andrew was absolutely amazing. Seeing how much time they have in the film, how much screen time they have, how they play into Peter's development going forward, even helping to inspire that new suit that he's wearing at the end of the film. Everything about this movie is on all cylinders. That moment with Aunt May, with great power comes great responsibility. All of that stuff was just everything to me. We pretty much, this is the closest we've actually gotten to a Sinister Six movie as well, and it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel cheap. It didn't feel like Sony was just trying to get it all in because the Sinister Six is the biggest thing for Spider-Man and we want to sell toys, right? Like, it all worked. It all fit in some way. So I can't wait to see Peter's journey from here. I can't wait to see Doctor Strange's journey from here into Multiverse of Madness. He's going to be working with Loki and Scarlet Witch. That's going to be crazy. So absolutely love this movie. 10 out of 10 for me. And I can't wait to see where the next trilogy goes. Like, I absolutely Fucking love this film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this review. Josh, why don't you tell the people where they can find you online and what projects you're working on?
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me. I had a freaking blast. It was so nice to meet you too. And James, it was really great to see you again.
Yeah,
you're an amazing host, and thank you for letting me come on such an awesome episode. You can find me on Instagram at Josh Wilson Creates. I've got this book coming out next month. It's my graphic novel, Twilight Custard. It's about a robot and a cowboy. Pick it up. And again, you can follow me on Instagram to check that out. I'm going to launch a site when it's ready to be sold, but it'll just be twilightcustard.com. But again, thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, man. Can't wait to have you back. Steve, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can follow me at Scuba Steve 1428 on all social media. You can follow the Inside the Mind of a Blerd podcast. We got a Linktree, and it'll link you to everybody that's part of our podcast that has gaming Twitches and things like that. Their own YouTube channels. All that stuff is right there in the Linktree. So follow those guys as well. And yeah, man, that's it for me.
Vash?
I appreciate you guys for being here. Share this to your friends, your family, your cousins. Share this on Facebook. You're on, like, get the word of mouth for C4 Spoilers on the channel and for Villains overall, because we love doing this content. We do this for the fun of it. And if we get paid for the future and get sponsored by Marvel, hell yeah, that'd be hella fun. But at the end of the day, we enjoy doing this content, and it's just so great to talk about Spider-Man, a movie for 3 hours, longer than the movie itself.
Yeah.
So just to say, like, that shows something entertaining overall. And please follow me at Legendary Vash. I'm on vacation, so you'll be seeing some content on Instagram on C4 Spoilers. You'll be seeing content on the YouTube channel of Anime Lately. And tomorrow we're live again on the C4's channel for Hawkeye. And we'll be live again for Anime Lately podcast, maybe last episode of the year. Who knows? So definitely check that out this Thursday. We have some content for you on the next couple of days.
Yeah, man. It's going to be a blast. I had so much fun doing this review with you guys. You can follow me all over social media at JB Exclusive, and of course see the number 4 spoilers. Head over to carefulforspoilers.com. Find all of our links there to the Patreon, the merch store, all of our social media. We have a bunch of articles on there as well. Chris Conkling, that was here earlier in chat, he wrote a full review on Spider-Man One More Day, like we talked about, that this film is loosely in part referencing, and we have so many other articles on the website as well, so support us on there. Like Vass said, tomorrow we're going to be live tomorrow night around 8 p.m. CST. We have to talk as a team, but we will be reviewing the Hawkeye finale. It's going to be a lot of fun to see Kingpin on screen for the first time back in the MCU with Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, and Yelena. I think it's going to be a really cool finale, trying to wrap up all of these different storylines together. We got so much great stuff coming for you guys. We're going to have Anime Lately on Thursday. I'm going to be doing my top 10 best movies of the year sometime next week. I'm also going to be talking about my sleeper hits of 2021 as well. Those are going to be the films that I didn't have much anticipation for, but ended up kind of blowing me away this year. So I'm going to be doing all of that. Like Vash said, stay tuned for more social media reactions. We got a lot of shit coming for you guys in 2022. The very first episode in 2022 is going to be our Flash Armageddon crossover review. Then the following week, we're going to be starting Peacemaker series with John Cena, James Gunn. We got a lot of shit coming for you guys, so make sure you stay tuned. Thank you all in chat who's been with us this whole time. It's 12:30 CST my time. I can't imagine what time it is for some of you guys, so thank you all for sticking with us, and we will see you guys on the next one.